PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla. Of course, I'm your mayor of PHNX. This guy next to me is your vice mayor of PHNX, the one and only Thunderstick Jesse Friedman.
Hello, Derek. You're wearing a tie today. What is going on over here?
Look at this. I have no explanation for you other than this is a very important day. I wanted to be official. And I am excited to be here. We also have our pal from DNVR, Patrick Lyons, here that's going to be joining us momentarily. But of course, this show is brought to you by the fine folks at the DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. We are excited, guys. This is a huge day for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Obviously, with the number 2 pick, we cannot wait to see who the Diamondbacks end up with. Speculation has been all over the place, Jesse. Yeah. It's been an exciting day. We've been watching draft odds. We've been watching all sorts of things fluctuate on different betting apps and things. So as it stands, Termarr Johnson right now is still the odds-on betting favorite for being the number 1 pick to go to the Baltimore Orioles, which means the Arizona Diamondbacks would have their pick of essentially the best outfielders in all of baseball draft to choose from, right?
Yeah. I mean, the good news here, everyone, is that whoever the Diamondbacks take at number 2 is going to be a pretty darn good player.
Yes,
at least right now. I mean, the MLB draft is such that we really have no idea who is going to be a darn good player and who's not at the end of the day. But on paper, this is the type of draft where being at number 2 is an excellent spot to be in. So the Diamondbacks are going to improve their organization drastically here today.
There has been a lot of talk. We've actually discussed it a bit between the two of us about if the Diamondbacks would go with any kind of positional need or if they would just go with the best available player. If Drew Jones does come off the board at number 1, who would the Diamondbacks go with at that point? There has been talk about it being Jackson Holliday. Jesse over here feels like it would be the next best available player. I still have a little bit of an issue going with like a infielder with the Diamondbacks.
You're just convinced that Jordan Lawler is going to be
100%.
An absolute superstar, which is a totally fair thing to have in your head right now. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think the Diamondbacks are probably looking for whoever the best player that they feel will be in this draft, and I think that's who they're going to take, regardless of if they take a Drew Jones, then you figure you already have Corbin Carroll as your center fielder of the future. Or if you take a shortstop like Jackson Holliday, you feel like, oh, you already have Jordan Lawler there. But at the end of the day, the Diamondbacks want the best player available, and I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I am excited to welcome in now our buddy from DNVR, the one and only Patrick Lyons, who covers the Rockies for DNR. Patrick, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, gents? How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. How do you like the tie and glasses combo, first of all?
Love the Dwight Schrute look. You look amazing.
Good. I'm glad people are picking up on what I was laying down there. Are you guys excited in Denver for this draft, at least as we are here in Arizona?
Well, it's not the 2nd overall pick. It's the 10th pick for the Rockies, so not that same kind of general excitement. But I am getting some vibes of 2020 when Zach Veen was a player who, on some draft boards, he was as high as number 2, and he ended up sliding all the way down to 9 to the Rockies. He obviously, being one of their top prospects, looked really good in Saturday's futures game. Getting those vibes that maybe the guy that I liked, kind of the Zach Veen of this draft, Cam Collier, maybe he ends up sliding to the Rockies at 10. So that's sort of my hope right now.
The Diamondbacks have quite a variety of selections, as far as number 2 goes. And obviously what the Orioles do is going to impact the Diamondbacks. But what are your thoughts on what we might see from the Orioles at number 1? And what do you expect to see from the Diamondbacks in reaction to that?
Yeah, other than 2019 when they selected Adley Rutschman first overall, and he was just the obvious 1-1 pick, they've been cutting these kind of deals, right? Heston Kjerstad in 2020, Colton Cowser last year in 2021, where taking a slightly lesser player who is still going to make more money than they would have naturally on their own, but yet the Orioles then save some money to use later on in the draft to entice maybe some high school players to forego college, to sign with them. So it allows them a lot of flexibility with having such a large bonus pool. And as you guys have been pointing out all day long on Twitter at PHNX_DBacks, you've been talking about it on the show here now. Termarr Johnson, maybe even a Brooks Lee. They've been in talks with guys who might be more in that 5-6 range, but they'll get maybe even a little bit more money than they would have at 5 or 6, and the Orioles can pocket that extra cash and then use it later on in one of their second or third picks, and maybe even get two of their, what they consider the top 20 players on their draft board.
What were your thoughts about that? Brooks Lee for a minute peak there as being the odds-on betting favorite for a while on like DraftKings Sportsbook and a couple of other apps. What were your thoughts on that? Was that like kind of lined up with what you're thinking the Orioles might end up doing?
Brooks Lee wouldn't have been that guy, but you know what?
That was my thought.
Yeah. What's interesting is because I remember, I'm not sure what year it was. Maybe it was 2014 when the Astros ended up kind of cutting a deal. Maybe it was 2012 with Carlos Correa, and he didn't seem like he was the top overall player. We look back now and say, oh, they ended up getting one of the best players, but they signed someone below that slot dollar value, and it ended up being a really good player. That very well could be the case on Brooks Lee. No knock on him. Tamar Johnson, I like his bat a little bit more. I like his projectability. Cal Poly, not in a big baseball conference, so to speak, out there in California. So you're getting a Division I guy versus a high school player. So if I had my druthers, I'd probably go with Tamar Johnson, but Brooks Lee might provide them a better discount for saving some money for later on.
I think that's the thing is we're seeing the Baltimore Orioles have the season they're having. And I wonder if the fact that they are, 500 impacts their decision on who they draft. Like you said, you bring up the aspect of drafting a high school player versus a college player. There's always that danger that the high school player could still commit to college and go back into the draft, right? Plus you have the fact that there is the advantage of a college player just being that much closer to being ready for the big leagues. So if it was up to you, what are you doing with the number 1 overall draft pick? If let's say you're sitting as the Baltimore Orioles GM, what are you doing there?
Well, first thing, I'm moving left field back to its previous state because that is a graveyard out there in Camden Yards. Trey Mancini's lost like 7 home runs this season because of it. But I'm going to try to cut a deal with one of those players, probably Tamar Johnson. It very much could be you call 3 or 4 different guys. I don't know that you're definitely not getting a discount with Drew Jones.
Sure.
But you can let his agency know and his representation know that, look, we'd be willing to give you this number. If you say yes, we would sign on the dotted line. Again, it's going to be less than that actual first overall pick. But I'd almost call 3 different players and say the first one who says yes to it, that's who I'm going with, and I'm adjusting from there. And to your point there, Derek, which is really good, because most times it doesn't really matter, I don't think, as much as far as how long this player is going to need in the minors for their seasoning. If they're high school or college, you really kind of want to take the best player, and maybe positional depth-wise maybe isn't as important. But the Orioles have the 33rd overall pick. That's their next pick after 1-1. And perhaps if you got into the ear of Kumar Rocker's representation, you can go ahead and get a really young, talented player like a Tamar Johnson, and then say, you know what, if you're around there at 33, I think we can end up giving you, the 12th overall slot value dollars and pay you like you were a front end first round guy, have their cake and eat it too. And now they can start him out right away. And Bowie playing for the Bay Sox there in AA. And maybe he's a guy that you can bring up in the second half of the season, almost like a trade acquisition in the middle of August after he gets a little bit of seasoning. And all of a sudden, maybe you can catch lightning in a bottle like the Angels did with Francisco Rodriguez in 2002.
Rocker is a name we've actually brought up, and we speculated about it. We didn't think that he would be there when the D-backs have their competitive balance pick in round A, but you never know with this draft, right? It's like it's kind of like the way that this discussion about the number 1 overall pick is, and it's different than other sports, right? I mean, the whole slot value thing and being penalized for going over slot is, obviously, a different part of this versus the NFL and some of the other teams where they don't have to really worry about how many picks they have in the first or second round and how that's going to impact them financially with signing all of those picks.
Yeah, it's so strange. And you can't trade any of the picks,
right.
Just the competitive balance round picks, which don't really seem to have a ton of value. We did see that trade earlier in the week between the Royals and Atlanta. But you're right. It is strange. Instead of it just being the best player or even drafting for need, you don't know what you're going to need going forward. I mean, I could even see a scenario in which the Rockies draft a catcher this year, if Kevin Parada, a guy like that happens to be available. Well, they got Drew Romo sitting there in high A Spokane and is one of their top prospects, but hearing the farm director, Chris Forbes, talk about it, hey, these things kind of can sort themselves out. Maybe you have 2 top catchers. I mean, Atlanta's doing all right. They've got 2 catchers in the All-Star game this year. So you never really know how these things are going to play out in the next 2-3 years going forward.
Yeah.
So you just have to take, the best player, or again, manage that money. And you say, well, we'd rather have 2 guys that we like a lot rather than the player we like the most. And that's totally different.
That's been part of our discussion too, because I am of the mindset that they don't need to go after a shortstop, like a Holiday or like a Termarr Johnson. But, again, with baseball, the impact of that player is so far down the road that you can't really worry right now about what you do and don't have, as much as just worrying about making sure that you get the best available pick when you draft it.
And there's also a scenario too to think about if you do take a middle infielder there and you're like, well, hey, Jordan Lawler, we got this guy. He's all right. He'll be a nice bridge for the end of the Nick Ahmed era there. Still waiting for the big Nick Ahmed shirt from PHNX.
That hasn't come yet, Patrick. He's under control for another season, so you never know how long Nick Ahmed might be around.
Are you saying it's on the way? Perhaps
I'm saying it's in the works. I'm saying it's in the works.
Okay, now you've got me titillated over here.
It mostly has to do with inflammation and diet and stuff, but we'll make sure that we get something that he would like out there for sure.
Oh, I love that. And I love the ability for the Diamondbacks, who I think are going to be competitive a lot sooner than maybe some people may realize. I mean, look,
right.
They've got a lot of good, young, exciting players. And even imagine in 2 years from now could really be when their window starts to open.
Right.
You start to really see them win a lot more ball games. Well, guess what? If you got Jordan Lawler at shortstop and a Termarr Johnson or a Jackson Holiday at shortstop down in Double-A, then you've got yourself a wonderful trade chip to add a piece in and help keep that window open and really help fortify the roster to possibly win another NL West title.
And that seems to be the route that you need to go in order to win, right? Like the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, they're kind of in a position right now where they are basically trying to figure out who their core is, who they're going to build around for the future. I feel like the Rockies are a little bit more defined in who their core is. The D-backs are still kind of establishing that. But, after that, there's steps to take to get to that next level. And sometimes that step is making those trades or making those big free agent signings. That's going to be that thing to get you over the top, especially with us in the NL West. You can't expect to completely do it through your farm system. There's no way you're going to beat the Dodgers without, adding some of those pieces either through big trades or through free agency. So like you said, those trade chips could become very valuable. It's just, I just want Drew Jones so bad. And I think at this point, I don't know how I will react if the Diamondbacks...
We're pretty worried over here, Patrick. If it's not Drew Jones, then all hell might break loose.
They started wrapping
here.
stuff in bubble wrap and like waterproofing things. And I'm like, this is an overreaction. It's not a Gallagher show. I might lose my shit, but it's mostly because I think Drew Jones is going to be one of those talent that if you don't take, you're going to regret that you did. I think the Orioles might have that feeling, even though they might end up with a batch of talent that might be more valuable than just putting all of their eggs in one basket as far as their slot value and everything that they're doing with the draft in Drew Jones.
Yeah. Patrick, I want to ask you this. Do you feel like the MLB draft is, we talked earlier about how the MLB draft is just not, it's not really in the same stratosphere as the NBA draft or the NFL draft, just in terms of entertainment value and how much interest it draws. Do you think there are easy things that Major League Baseball could do in order to make this event more marketable and something that draws more coverage than like the show that we're doing and what you can watch on MLB Network? There's not that much other coverage out there, right?
Like, why are you undercutting us? We're here doing the thing.
No, I'm saying we're like almost the only ones doing it, right? Whereas all of the other drafts in pro sports draw so much more coverage from basically everyone.
No, he's right.
It's true. I think baseball is kind of on their way to that. 2020 and in the pandemic season, they were going to have that draft in Omaha during the College World Series, and it might still be something that they look to do because them waiting this long for the All-Star break kind of throws a wrench into the the summer wood bat leagues. and everything that goes into that. But I think they're kind of on their way. They're trying to do the draft combine business a little bit better. You're starting to see more coverage with that. I believe they're even have something in the works where for any of the players who go and take a physical at those combines, they're going to be guaranteed something like 75% of the slot value, so that there's not any of those big surprises like Kumar Rocker last year when he was taken 10th by the Mets. The medicals were not great, and so there was no deal there. Or even going back even further with the Texas Rangers, some point in the mid 90s with R.A. Dickey, and they found out, it turns out he had blown his ACL out, and they didn't realize what they had. And so he went from being a multi-million-dollar bonus baby to a guy who just got a couple $100,000 because there weren't those medicals. So I think baseball is trying to get more eyes on their product. The biggest challenge that they just simply can't overcome is the fact that it takes these players so long to go from being drafted to when they actually get to the majors or even make an impact. And so, that might require a certain change on how minor league baseball is covered, particularly on the MLB network, and getting more of those games. Having the futures game obviously is a big part of that, but that's something that's been around for 20 years now. So they just got to get more eyes on the younger players, make them more household names, boost it somehow. I mean, I think another one of those kind of logical advancements that they could make to make people more interested and invested in these young players would be they go to the Little League World Series and they play a game there. We've got the Field of Dreams as one of those alternative site games. Have a couple games at the College World Series where these college guys can watch the pros, and now people are paying a little bit more attention to the college guys, and it's just this kind of domino effect where people are like, I've heard of this guy already, rather than, okay, they took someone, I have no idea who he is. How excited should I be? The fans will actually have their own excitement to the table.
Well, and there is that factor that a guy that gets drafted by a team might go to college instead of going to that team. I think baseball's draft is a bit confusing, and it even plays into sometimes the draft itself, right? I think one of the reasons why the Diamondbacks were able to get Jordan Lawler when they did was because he was signed to Vanderbilt, and there was concern that he might go to Vanderbilt, right? So there's things like that are just so vastly different about the MLB draft than all the other drafts because of that kind of, I can commit and then I can kind of pull out if I didn't go high enough, or if I don't really like the situation I'm being drafted into.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could create different changes in future CBAs so that, again, it somehow guarantees it. Where I heard a football player recently sharing a story about how after the draft combine, he was slated to go in around these rounds. And so you had an idea where you're going. And so if they did something like that, where these high school players were going to the combine, they would say, hey, we feel you're probably going to go around this pick or in this round. That's the consensus. So we can guarantee that you're going to get 75% of that money in that spot if you sign on the dotted line. So going into the draft, there really aren't those signability concerns. It's just, are you going to sign the guy for 75% of that figure or the full 100%? Now, again, those high school players, those amateur players have to now give up their rights to do that. But it is something that the Players Association, they're kind of working on. It's something that they're discussing right now with an international draft and kind of, giving up someone else's rights that aren't theirs necessarily to give away. But, we see that in other sports. And so I think overall, Major League Baseball realizes that they have a little bit of an issue with this. I don't think there's a perfect way where the MLB draft is the same as the NFL or the NBA draft, but I still think overall they definitely can do a better job.
How about not having it during the middle of the season? How about not having it while baseball games are actually going on during the middle of the day? Would that be at least one way to rectify that?
That's such a great point, but I don't know how you do that. They don't play baseball. I mean, they do have kind of a fall season,
right,
so to speak, but it's a little bit different. That obviously
difficult,
would go
right?
a long way.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. But Patrick, I know you have prep to do for your show. I know you guys do a great job with the DNVR Rockies. So make sure to follow Patrick on Twitter at Patrick D Lyons. We thank you, sir, so much for joining us and bringing your analysis. I also appreciate your Dwight Schrute comment. That was, again, the exact thing I was going for. So I'm glad you were picking it up.
I get you, Derek. Don't worry.
I know you do. You get me more than most people do, Patrick, and I love that about you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, and have a great one.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Good luck on your show.
I would say go Rockies to him, but that doesn't
You
feel
can't
like
say that
no, I'm
around
not.
here,
That's not the
Derek.
right thing to say at all. Anyway, we are locked in. The Baltimore Orioles are now on the clock, and again, what the Baltimore Orioles do has such a huge impact on what the Diamondbacks do, right?
It does, and I think it's pretty clear at this point, Derek. I mean, if the Baltimore Orioles do not take Drew Jones, I think it's not for sure. I'm not making any guarantees.
I feel like you're guaranteeing me,
I'm not.
and
I'm
that's
not
a bad
trying
thing to do. I'm
I
just
know
going to
I'm
be
setting
more upset.
myself up poorly for your reaction if Drew Jones does not enter the Diamondbacks organization today. But I think we can be fairly confident that that's likely what the Diamondbacks will do. So,
man.
so this
That's
pick
exciting.
is
exciting.
very big. What the Orioles do, obviously, with them having the number 1 overall pick, is going to be a very large factor in what the Diamondbacks are able to do with their pick.
And it could reverse my entire anger about that last game of the season. Maybe I won't be mad at Josh Van Meter anymore.
Well,
Who knows, right?
What's funny here is that Elijah Green was the big name that
he
we were
really
throwing
was.
out back then. And
He really
Elijah
was.
Green, he's still in the mix for the top 10 for sure. But it is far from a consensus that Elijah Green will be in the top 3 or even top 5 in this draft.
We got Rob Manfred at a podium, Jesse, so I think the
We
pick
do.
is in. I think it's about to happen. The draft is about to kick off, so this is exciting. The anticipation is killing me. I can't wait to see who the Diamondbacks select. Who do you think is the best fit? I mean, do you really think it's an outfielder at this point for this team? The draft is suspiciously low on pitching talent, which I think
It
would
is,
be
it
a
is.
primary focus for the D-backs if there was more elite pitching talent available in this draft, but it
That's
doesn't
true.
seem like that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, the Diamondbacks, as far as their future is concerned, they're in a pretty good spot on the position player side of things, right? With Corbin Carroll, with Alec Thomas, with Dalton Varsho doing what he's doing, and of course, Jordan Lawler, the list goes on. We're in a pretty good spot as far as the position player future of this team is concerned. There are more questions on the pitching side. And
For
on
sure.
that front, it would be nice in some ways if the Diamondbacks had a better group of pitchers to choose from, but that is very, very unlikely to happen in their first overall pick.
It's pretty rough because the Diamondbacks once again have this farm system where the 2 stops on your way to the major leagues aren't exactly pitcher-friendly ballparks. Things tend to fall apart a bit for certain guys. Tommy Henry continues to have a great season for the Diamondbacks for the Reno Aces, so he's a bright spot, I think, pitching-wise for this team right now.
Yeah.
But I really think at this point, the Diamondbacks, like you said, I'm kind of coming around on them just drafting the best available player. I just think that's going to still end up being Drew Jones.
I think it likely will.
Oh, man, I don't know what I'm going to do if they don't. I'm going to be so angry. But speaking of our farm system and how good it's been, Corbin Carroll had an incredible game in the Futures game. He went 1 for 1 with a double and a walk, but as good as you can hope from a young
He
guy in
did
a
get
game
caught
like that.
stealing third base, but
Come
I guess we'll let that slide.
Come on, we're
We'll let
letting that slide. We're absolutely letting that slide. Jordan Lawler also had an at-bat in the All-Star Futures game, so things are exciting for this team, and these guys are close. Corbin Carroll, more than anything, looked like major league ready in that game.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I took away from his appearance in that Futures game. It was just,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's like how I felt about Alec Thomas. I had seen a lot of footage of Alec Thomas, but sometimes with MLB prospects, you're looking at 5-year-old footage of them in high school, 3-year-old
Sure.
footage of them at single A or whatever, right? So when I saw Alec Thomas at the D-backs minor league camp, when the lockout was still going on, he looked like major league ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just physically, he looked like he was ready to be here and be a part of this team. And now I feel the same thing watching Corbin Carroll. It's exciting.
He's getting close.
Oh,
Derek.
it's
He's
so
getting
close.
And it's entirely possible that before the end of this season, we see Corbin Carroll donning a Diamondbacks.
You're going
uniform.
there. You're going there.
I'm
You're
going
locking
there.
it in there.
I'm saying
Wow.
it's possible. It's not a guarantee,
Oh, you're getting my hopes up in several ways,
but
Jesse. You're just
I'm really
setting me up
us
for
up
disappointment.
this could get ugly. But we'll hope you take it easy on us today, Derek.
Yeah, but anyway, if you guys haven't signed up already, make sure to sign up for a membership at our website over at gophnx.com. Of course, if you get an annual membership, you will get a free t-shirt at the phnxlocker.com like this guy's wearing over here. They're incredible. They're beautiful. Emma's got our Seth Beer shirt on. It's just a bevy of beautiful shirts, and you get your selection if you're an annual member. Of course, if you get the month-to-month membership, you'll get your first month for just 50 cents, so we're hooking you up either way. Regardless of your membership status, you get access to our members-only Discord, which is always a fun place to be. I want to be in there right now. I'm sitting here wondering what's going on in the Discord as we talk. I wonder what they think about my glasses. These aren't real glasses, you guys. I don't wear glasses, but I thought they made me look smart for this. So also make sure if you sign up, you get your free, not free, but members only discounts over at the phnxlocker.com. So even if you go with the month-to-month option, you will still get those discounts over at the PHNX Locker. Also, if you're watching us right now on YouTube, so many of you are. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to subscribe to the PHNX YouTube channel, as well as sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever we go live, as well as listening to our podcast. This show is available on audio. If you want to listen to it while you're driving, flying, doing whatever, you can get us. And make sure if you download us on your favorite audio podcasting app, subscribe and leave us a 5-star review if you feel that Jesse deserves it. I don't know about me, but of course, I think I'm a pretty all right guy.
It's not a hard decision.
It's not a hard decision. Really but the picks are starting, Jesse, and I'm the Orioles have like less than a minute now at this point. So the Diamondbacks' fate is just about to be a little bit clearer, but I don't know. I think that this draft, we've talked about how good this draft is. And of course, we I love watching Jacob cry. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
Wow.
So I love it. It's great. His sadness brings me so much joy. In this case, though, I don't want him to cry. I want the Diamondbacks to get Drew Jones. There's a lot of children of professional athletes in this draft. There's a lot of top tier talent in this draft. There's a lot of names being thrown around. I've seen some people want the Diamondbacks to draft Jackson Holliday over Drew Jones, even if he's available. So it's a weird draft where really it feels like, with so many good picks, you can't really go wrong with who you draft. But there's still going to be some scrutiny tied to it based on who goes after the Diamondbacks and how successful those players are if they don't take them, right?
Yeah, I mean, we asked people on Twitter today, Derek, who, and it looks like the pick
is in, and it is Termarr Johnson. It is Termarr Johnson to the Baltimore Orioles. Again, the odds-on favorite, Termarr Johnson, the number 1 overall pick in the MLB draft, goes to the Baltimore Orioles. So they still have 4 picks tonight. First, 33rd, a lot of picks, but Termarr Johnson, I'm not surprised by that at all. I think that's a name that's been tied to the Baltimore Orioles now for months and months, right?
Yeah. Well, once again, the odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, right? Spot on here. Termarr Johnson was
those
the odds
folks
on
know
favorite.
what they're doing over there.
They know what they're doing. Yeah. So as far as Termarr Johnson is concerned, this kid is said to have potentially the best hit tool of any high schooler that has been in the draft for about a decade. And so
no, it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
It did not happen.
They took Jackson Holliday. Holy crap.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
We're off to a great start here, Derek.
We are off to They showed Termarr Johnson getting up and walking to the stage. But no, the Diamondbacks or the Orioles go with Jackson Holliday. This is incredible, you guys, because again, somebody we thought that wasn't tied to the Orioles at all, right? I don't think we've heard. We saw several names, but yeah, obviously Jackson Holliday has been considered the best available shortstop. Termarr Johnson was considered the best bat actively, right, in the draft, but Jackson Holliday, son of Matt Holliday, this is incredible. And we are off. What an incredible start. We already got the first pick wrong, but the Diamondbacks are now on the. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know who they didn't take? They didn't take Drew Jones. He's still on the board. That's all that matters. So now we have the Arizona Diamondbacks just over 2 minutes on the clock. Jackson Holliday, very excited. He is watching, it looks like from his home in Oklahoma, which is something we talked about with this draft. There's actually a lot of players in this draft are at home versus what we see with the NFL draft, where the top.
It's usually how the MLB draft works. A lot of guys are at home rather than being there on site.
Right.
So this is interesting, Derek. I know that you want Drew Jones, and people in the chat, I think, largely want Drew Jones.
Jacob's going to cry if we don't get Drew Jones. Are you shitting me?
I don't think Jacob will be the only one.
Oh.
So the argument in favor of Termarr Johnson, I just want to make this out here while we have a moment. If you draft Termarr Johnson, then you probably can get him for a little bit under slot value.
Right.
Which
right.
theoretically could give the Diamondbacks an opportunity to spend a little bit more on their competitive balance pick at number 34, and then in the second round at number 43.
Which is kind of how the Baltimore Orioles picks kind of are trending,
which
right?
is how the Orioles
have a similar situation as the D-backs. They actually have more picks in the top 50 than the D-backs, right? So they do have the ability to have their money go a bit further, and if they can save it on the overall pick, but they're not saving on Jackson Holiday. They're not. He's the number 2 overall pick, right? Aren't they going like pretty much in slot value when it comes to somebody that was ranked in the top 3 like that?
Pretty much slot value, yeah. I mean, maybe you get him for just a little bit less, but yeah, I mean, he's totally deserving of being number 1. He's definitely not the guy that a lot of people expected. I think this is this is a bit of a surprise in some ways. Props to those of you who bet on Jackson Holiday going number 1.
You probably got really good odds on it. It was like plus 800 or something,
you probably did really well on that.
Oof. But yeah, now the Diamondbacks have about 35 seconds left on the clock before their pick is in.
You ready for this, Derek?
I am not ready for this. Jesse Friedman, are you shitting me? Oh, this is exciting.
So we're saying probably Drew Jones or Tamar Johnson, and probably Drew Jones of this.
Jesse is saying probably Tamar Johnson. Don't get it twisted.
I did not say probably Tamar Johnson.
I'm not saying probably anybody but Drew Jones. At this point, anybody but Drew Jones, I think, is a disappointment for me at least. But 10 seconds, folks. 10 seconds, and then we will know who the Arizona Diamondbacks have selected. So, again, this is extremely important, I think, for the future of the franchise. It's just so weird because baseball players take so long for them to actually impact the franchise. And I think especially right now, no matter the direction they go, there's a good chance it's going to be a high school player, and it's a good chance it's going to be somebody that's going to take a while before we see them in major leagues. But the pick is in. We're ready to go. I'm excited for this.
Here we go.
They're interviewing Jackson Holiday at home right now, but I really need to see who the Diamondbacks pick. In the meanwhile, it's interesting to see exactly what they have going on. His dad's with him, Matt, and of course we know about his MLB career.
We know a thing or two about Matt playing on the Rockies.
We're familiar with
years.
that guy. Of course, I'm sure Patrick is very familiar with him. But like, here we go. The Diamondbacks, whatever they do here is going to be huge. This is exciting. I can't wait for this.
Is it aggravating for you, Derek, that it says the pick is in?
It's killing me.
And we're just sitting here.
Again, we talked about ways that they can improve the draft. I think to get all the hype up and now to be interviewing the first overall pick. Like, I get it. The first overall pick is a big deal. But again, this is why the players being there, I think, is such a big deal, right? You get to get them up on the stage, hat on, jersey on, the photo op with Manfred, and then, a couple of quick questions before we move on to the next pick in the draft. In this case, it's pretty agonizing to me right now, Jesse. I'm dying inside. And I don't know, Jacob Franklin asks in the chat, what if they went with Elijah? And I think I'd be pretty torn at this point. I don't know.
Wow, you of all people torn about Elijah Green.
I'll tell you, I think the Thanos Elijah Green meme by me from last season is dead forever now because obviously I am leaning mostly in the direction of Drew Jones. The one thing about Elijah Green that they've said quite a bit has been his, especially at the combine, his swing and miss was exposed a bit. They still classify him as having the highest upside at potential in the draft. But I mean, what does that mean sometimes? Potential, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I
we've
get it.
We've just seen there are so many like toolsy, like well-built outfielders that we've seen get taken high in the MLB draft that just don't pan out the way that people think that they will.
Right. I mean, hitting the ball is such an important part of
hitting
baseball,
the ball is a pretty important part. It is, Derek.
Right?
Hashtag analysis. You should put the glasses back on, Derek.
That was good. Let me tighten the tie up. I'm gonna sit down a little bit so maybe you can't see my shorts so much. I don't know. I'm not. It's 105 degrees in this office right now, folks.
It is a little warm in here.
The glasses are a little bit foggy, and we've been looking at a thing saying the Arizona Diamondbacks pick is in for close to 2 minutes now. So they're just toying with us. But this again is part of the MLB draft where it does move a little bit slower, right, than the regular draft. We can't get as hyped up and as excited about these picks and moving on because it's dragging on now.
I'm just thankful that we don't have all 20 rounds in one day.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine?
Oh, God. I can only imagine how long these 2 rounds are going to take today. But Jacob asks if we got any good jokes. I do not. Not right now. Here's another thing is that the Diamondbacks also have a lot of picks, like the Baltimore Orioles. So
yeah. Mark asked, how many picks do we have tonight? And it is 3.
we have 3 picks. We have the compensation, right? Is compensation draft round A or competitive balance.
There you
Competitive
go.
balance round A. Words are hard. We have one in there, and then we also have the 43rd pick. So the Diamondbacks are actually in a good position, but again, it begs the question, like, would they try to save money to potentially get better players later? We talked about Kumar Rocker, and he's somebody that could potentially maybe be available in that competitive balance round A.
Yeah, Kumar Rocker is a fascinating case. We talked about it with Patrick Lyons as well, as I'm over here refreshing Jeff Passan's Twitter account every 2 seconds.
Yeah, what is Jeff saying?
We have nothing.
Jeff's got nothing. Jeff, where are you? Where's our Woj? We need somebody giving us these picks like 5 minutes before they hit the screen.
He did get the Jackson Holiday pick beforehand, so I think he'll probably have it before the TV does. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be the Kumar Rocker situation is really interesting. He's been pitching in an independent league. He pitched just a few games there to kind of show off what he could do. He didn't go to college, and he unveiled the teams. What his medical background actually was, and that was sort of the reason that things fell apart with the Mets last year. He had a procedure over the fall, but apparently people were pretty impressed with him. So I don't know if he'll be there at number 34 by the time the Diamondbacks opportunity rolls around, but you never know.
It's wild with the draft, the predictions, because some guys are as low they're in the early 20s or the late 50s as far as the draft pick is concerned. But the Diamondbacks, second overall pick, 34th and 43rd. So again, Baseball America has the best available prospects. Jackson Holiday was third for them coming off the board. Drew Jones still ranked first. Brooks Lee has kind of slid in. His name's kind of come up a bit out of nowhere as of late. Do you
Brooks Lee?
Yeah, do you have any information?
I think Brooks Lee was more about the Baltimore Orioles than it was anyone else. We might be getting pretty close here though.
Yeah, there's some focusing in. Is that Drew? I think that's Drew Jones right there. Yeah, let's get him on stage. Oh, Jeff Passan dropped it. Did he drop it? Jesse, refresh.
I believe it is happening.
Is it happening? It's happening. It's happening. Oh, thank you, Jeff Passan. Here comes Rob Manfred to tell us the good news that the Arizona Diamondbacks have drafted essentially the number 1 overall pick.
This is a pretty cool moment.
This is incredible.
Jeff Passan has tweeted it out. We have Rob Manfred on the stage right now.
I don't care. It's not official. Let's fucking go! Let's go! Baxter's excited. I didn't know Baxter was there. Let's go, Drew Jones, baby.
I didn't know they let Baxter into LA of all places.
I'm sure he's up to date on all of his cat vaccinations and whatnot. But Drew Jones, the Diamondbacks somehow walk away. And again, not that unexpected, but just exciting to see this. And I don't want any of your shit. Don't start fucking tweeting me about how they're going to trade him away before. We're past that. We're better than that now. Let's get together as a group and focus. This is exciting. The Diamondbacks, with the second overall pick, still walk away with essentially the experts' consensus best overall pick.
Yeah. This is a huge moment for the franchise. Drew Jones on the vast majority of draft boards. If you haven't been, looking at all of the different draft boards that have been put out, Drew Jones, Derek, is on the top of basically all of them.
Look at his weaknesses. Swing isn't always fluid. Are you shitting me? That's his only weakness. Defense, all the tools. Oh, you better believe.
No offense to Dalton Varsho.
Yeah, no offense to Dalton Varsho. Some people also have all the tools. Pitch recognition, very big for Drew Jones. Obviously, very athletic, very powerful. He's got a substantial amount of power. I think one thing that's been very impressive about watching him has been his defense, right? The thought about having him, Corbin Carroll, and Alek Thomas together in an outfield.
An absolutely insane defensive
outfield. It's fucking wild. It's mind-blowing, right? So, I mean, again, the outfield that the Diamondbacks could have of the future is literally like giving me goosebumps right now thinking about it. And that's not even like at the dish. That's just thinking of them defensively. And what we've seen so far out of Corbin Carroll is that this guy is legit, right?
So, I mean, let's cover some of the basics here with Drew Jones. So he's the son of
Andrew Jones.
Fairly well-known.
Fairly well-known
Major League
Andrew
player.
with a U. There's not a lot of Andrews with a U.
10 Gold Gloves, I want to say, for his father. So he comes by his defensive ability pretty honestly.
And Patrick Lyons is right. I'm absolutely going to be hanging out with Andrew Jones. I think Andrew Jones will like my shirts very much. That's what I think. But yes, Jesse, the reverse psychology worked. Good
there you
job,
go. There you
buddy.
go. This is all me.
Yeah, he did it. That's a big win.
As far as Drew Jones as a player, though, just covering kind of more of the fundamentals of who he is and just kind of some of the concerns and some of the strengths for him moving forward.
Mark Solera is right, by the way. We lead the league in great hair right now. I'm pretty sure.
That is also true. That is also true.
Yeah. Yeah. Jacob Franklin says nothing will get in the gaps with the future outfield. He's absolutely right.
It could be absolutely insane. Clutch Canucks says I can now happily watch Drew Jones highlights. There you go.
I'm with you on that a little bit.
You'll just assume that you'll basically be watching Drew Jones. You'll basically be watching his son when you watch his father's highlights. So,
man.
But no. So Drew Jones, as far as the way that he's viewed by scouts moving forward. The one concern here, Derek, is how well he'll hit, basically the hit tool. So, is he a guy who hits the majors and his power is for real, but, maybe he's more of a 240 sort of hitter, right? But the good news with him is that he's a plus runner. His speed on the base paths is for real. He can steal bases. And the fact that he plays about as good of a center field as you're ever going to find in a high school kid, makes him about as exciting of a prospect as there is. If you look at MLB Pipeline's list for top prospects available in this draft, some people might be familiar with the 20 to 80 scale that scouts generally use, where 50 is right smack dab in the middle, and then of course 80 would be the upper bound, and then 20 would be the lower bound. Drew Jones is the only player who comes in at a 65 on that list. After him, it is all 60 or below. So he is viewed as being in some ways kind of a tier above every other prospect in this draft, even though I think the first 6 or 7 guys, you really can't go wrong here. But the Diamondbacks did about as well as they possibly could with this pick.
Son of Andrew, 5-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove winner.
5-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove. Yeah.
Again, another guy that was committed to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, Arizona State. These are schools that are very good college schools, or as far as creating future top prospects and things like that. But I'm very excited about the idea of Andrew Jones, Andrew Jones being around the field. I'm excited about that. No, overall, I think the Diamondbacks obviously got exactly what they wanted, which was the best available position player, regardless of the position. But I do think this is significant. It really is. We joked about the loss with Josh Van Meter and giving the Orioles the overall number 1 overall pick. But in the end, it doesn't matter because they're still going to go based on, things like this, like positional needs, slot value, all of this other stuff, right?
The chat is going crazy right now, Derek, because something very unexpected has happened.
Kumar Rocker,
the Texas Rangers
at number
have
3.
Selected Kumar Rocker at number 3. Kumar Rocker was taken at number 10 last year and was not signed due to health concerns. And this year, as I talked about a few minutes ago, we did a sort of showcase in the Frontier League, which is an independent league. He pitched a few games there, kind of showed off what he could do. He had some pretty good stuff.
This is wild.
This is unprecedented, though. Kumar Rocker, most people had going between 20 and 35. We were even talking about the Diamondbacks maybe having a shot at getting him and the competitive balance round about 30 picks from now.
God.
So this is a big, bold move by the Texas Rangers, passing on Termarr Johnson, passing on some of these other guys who are available near the top, Elijah Green. This is a big move for them.
Here's the thing about Kumar Rocker is it actually makes a little bit of sense for the Texas Rangers because they feel like they've kind of expedited their timeline, and Kumar Rocker is probably theoretically closer to the big leagues than a lot of the other options that they had available at this pick. But there's plenty of guys in between now and Rocker that were college players that would be considered to be a higher at least a higher draft pick selection than Rocker. That's mind-blowing. Again, this is the excitement of the MLB draft. You literally have no idea what's going to happen because teams have different game plans, and those game plans can really be impacted by what timeline they're looking at, right? It's like the Orioles, I feel like, got their timeline has been expedited just a little bit by the way they're playing this year. I'm sure they're just kind of playing with house money, kind of like the Diamondbacks were at one point.
Sure.
But
Are you retracting your Diamondbacks playing with house money comments from earlier in the season, Derek? Or
I mean, at this
we past
point,
that point?
Yes, at this point, I would say that the D-backs are.
The Diamondbacks just beat the San Diego Padres, by the way. Not that
Not
feels
to take
particularly
anything
relevant
away.
right now, but
Right. They're 40-52 now, so they're 12 games below 500. I guess a big part of that is that, with them being 12 games below 500, they're not playing with house money as much anymore.
Not.
They're
Yeah,
still a little
probably
bit
not.
ahead of the curve as far as where we expected them to be, but at this point, if they're going to finish the season well below 500 and probably right in between that range of 70 to 80 wins this season. But again, I think that's why they have a different timeline. That's why Drew Jones fits with their timeline, right?
It is pretty crazy that the first two picks, I mean, you've literally got son of Matt Holliday, son of Andrew Jones, like two baseball legends. Their offspring are being ushered into the big leagues here. It's pretty crazy.
Their offspring are now officially codified as actual Major League Baseball players.
Although I guess not really. I mean, they're probably gonna hang out in rookie ball for a while. Might be a few years, but
and we'll get around to talking about the Diamondbacks being the Padres here very soon. But this is exciting. There's Drew Jones, baby, with the Diamondbacks hat on already. Confetti in the room. Another guy, once again, at home with his family, not present at the draft. That's surprising to me. I mean,
he's got a good headset, though. I respect the attention to detail.
He's ready to do interviews with us, right? He's ready.
Oh yeah.
Let's get him in here. I mean, I imagine the Diamondbacks feel like the Diamondbacks have to be popping bottles of champagne and celebrating, right? I mean, I knew they, just like us, they had a good idea this was going to happen, but still, it's got to feel like such a success to actually have that guy now as part of your organization.
Yeah. This is a pretty crazy moment. I mean, we've had today circled for a long time, Derek, as being one of the most important days for the Diamondbacks franchise this season. I mean, it's more important than any game they're going to play this year, right? Frankly, I mean, this is pretty much the biggest decision that they have had to make in the year 2022, and probably the biggest decision that they will have to make through the rest of the year. So getting Drew Jones here, seeing him don this Diamondbacks cap on MLB Network is a pretty cool moment.
This is obviously right up there with Justin Upton as far as when they drafted. It's a similar situation, right? The 2004 season was one of the worst seasons in franchise history.
It was pretty rough.
Just like last year was. And they ended up getting a talent that became, I mean, really close to being the guy. My first seasons of covering this team were around Justin Upton, and I never felt like he wanted to be the guy as much as that was being thrust upon him.
It was just so his career as a Diamondback was just so strange because he was so good like pretty quickly, and then once they moved him to the Braves, and even prior to that, he kind of just started turning the wrong direction. It was a little bit strange how things worked out there, but I don't know. You perceive Justin Upton as being someone who didn't want to be that guy, you think?
When I was around them in the locker room, I think that there was this idea it's kind of like Paul Goldschmidt, right? Like there's this idea that when you're the best player on the team, now you're the leader. Yeah. Now you're thrust into that role of being kind of the mouthpiece and the focal point of the team.
Sure.
And both Goldschmidt and Upton just seemed reluctant to even want that role, right?
I mean, Goldie, I think, was a leader in his own way, but I don't recall hearing much of that with regard to Justin Upton, like being a clubhouse leader type. That didn't really seem to be who he was.
He was very close with Chris Young, and in my first seasons of covering this team, I remember them kind of like getting their stuff and heading out, like not really wanting that media attention and things like that, good or bad, not just when things were bad, but like just in general, right? So I guess part of that is having that personality, right? We've talked about that with like David Peralta.
Yeah.
David Peralta has the kind of personality that really does reflect wanting to be that in that leadership role, at least like with the media and stuff. We do have the fourth pick in the draft now being finalized, and now we can say Termarr Johnson has finally come off the board, going to the Pittsburgh Pirates with the fourth overall pick. And I mean, if I was the Pirates, I think I'd be pretty damn thrilled about Termarr Johnson falling to us at 3.
Yeah, this is a really great situation for the Pirates. Termarr Johnson is, once again, probably is the best hit tool of anyone that we've seen out of a high school kid for about a decade.
What does that mean? What does best hit tool mean? Does it just mean like just the most advanced hitter, or what is the best hit tool?
So his approach is excellent. And I guess it's sort of like bat to ball skills, like the ability to make contact and consistently drive the ball and make hard contact, I guess, is really the most important factor there. He just has a short, compact stroke. He's kind of a smaller guy. I think he's 5'8". And so he's one of the smaller guys in the draft. But we've seen guys, Derek, who were, not necessarily the biggest guys out there who turn into Jose Ramirez or Mookie Betts or, Jose Altuve, who's probably even smaller than Termarr Johnson. Yeah. It's pretty crazy what some of these guys are able to do, despite what their size might tell you.
Mark Slayer wants to know, what are we going to be calling that outfield of our young short king, Drew Jones and Corbin? I don't know. Very good. Right now, that's what I'm calling them.
Where does this put Dalton Varsho's future? Obviously, we're asking these questions way too early, and Drew Jones is probably 3 or 4 years away, if we're being realistic here. But let's go there, Derek, just for fun. Where does Dalton Varsho play if you've got Alek Thomas, Corbin Carroll, and Drew Jones, hopefully someday, in a Diamondbacks outfield altogether? Dalton Varsho theoretically doesn't have a spot there.
Does Varsho not appeal to you behind the plate?
I thought he did a pretty good job earlier this season.
Because that's what he's been, right? Like in minor leagues and stuff, he was always a catcher. So I've always seen him as being the catcher of the future for this team. But I guess I question that because he doesn't get much time there.
Yeah.
And players like they brought up on the broadcast today, Carson Kelly has moved into that role of being Madison Bumgarner's primary catcher now, whereas Jose Herrera was that for the majority of the season. And Bumgarner had even made comments about enjoying working with Herrera and vice versa, right? So,
right.
But we don't really get a lot of that about Dalton Varsho, and he doesn't really seem to be in the mix much there for catching.
It was such a short stint for him. Like when Carson Kelly got hurt.
Was that a pun? Do you want to apologize for that?
No, I don't. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to Dalton Varsho. No, I mean it was just such a short stint for him where he was kind of thrust into the catching role all of a sudden because Carson Kelly was hurt and they didn't really have a choice to put him anywhere else. My question is just like with how valuable Dalton Varsho's bat can be, and I know it hasn't always been great for him this year. He was hotter earlier in the year. June wasn't a great month for him. But with how great his bat can be, catching every day, it takes a very, very large toll on someone in Dalton Varsho's position.
Sure.
And so, there's a reason you don't see that many catchers these days who are offensively minded who play in that spot every day, because it's just very, very hard to pull that off over a full season, to continue what you're able to do offensively, even while you're, sitting in a catcher's crouch for, 4 hours a night. It's a really hard thing to do.
That's definitely not easy at all. They are interviewing right now Termarr Johnson. Again, this is great. This is what we were talking about the draft. We want to help the MLB draft be better. So, I mean, again, I think that having these guys there, again, you can't force players to be there. And I think we're seeing that across all drafts where the guys are at home a little bit more than being there, right? But it's such a big moment. And
one thing I want to say about Termarr Johnson is I was listening to Keith Law's show the other day, and he was raving about Termarr Johnson's makeup. Just like who he is as a person, how mentally prepared they think he is for the grind of working his way up through the minors.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, the makeup of all these guys is going to be pretty good. If you're a top 3, top 4 pick in the MLB draft, you probably got there because you have a pretty good head on your shoulders. But Termarr Johnson, they just raved about his just his mental makeup and his ability to work through adversity and whatnot, which he's going to have to do as he works his way up to the big leagues.
I don't want to take too much away from this. I don't want to make it a bigger deal than it is, but like what you're talking about, he's there, right? And of the top 5 picks so far, he's the first one we've seen actually be there present and actually be on the stage. I don't know why, but that kind of speaks a little bit to that, right? Like realizing how important that day is and realizing I get that you want to be around your family, and I get that sometimes being in the comfort of your home when this kind of situation develops is a little bit easier, especially for a high school kid, right?
Yeah.
But like to be there and to be able to enjoy this moment as one of the top draft picks is a moment for you in your life. And I think that Termarr Johnson being there, it's big for him. You know what I mean? It's big for him.
So let's say hypothetically, Derek, you are being selected in the first round of the MLB draft, or at least you expect to be.
Sure.
Are you there in person, or are you at home with your family having them throw a big party for you?
Are you shitting me? I'm here right now in a tie, Jesse, and it's like 90 degrees in this room. What does that tell you? I'm just here to be excited about Drew Jones as the pick, right? Like, yes, I'm there. I am there because, again, the one thing about life, and I will say this, that this carries over beyond just a draft, is there are moments, right? And you don't always get
Derek's
to do
giving
stuff.
Us giving us
I'm
wisdom.
giving you life advice, right? this goes to people that don't like to celebrate holidays and shit. This goes to you too, but you got to enjoy the moments, right? It's what life's about. When it's all said and done, I mean, hopefully we all have the memories. We're lucky enough to have the memories of life. And I think that if you're a young ball player, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
It's like your baseball career is a marathon that you almost have to survive. It's so much different than other sports. Football's a sprint, right? It's like, how long can you go? It's going to be fast ride. You got to make as much money as you can before you potentially, can't play the game any longer. Baseball, between all that you go through as an amateur athlete, and then you transition into the draft and being drafted by a team, the decision to either go to a team as a high schooler or go to college. Then beyond that, once you get to the minors, getting through the low A, single A, double A, triple A, all of that. I mean, making the money that we talked about during the offseason and how hard it is for these minor league players. How many of these guys have to go out and get a second job or whatever because they're not these guys, right? Like the top draft picks, they're going to be taken care of, but there's so many guys that are going to be drafted over the next few days that aren't going to have they're not going to have what these guys being announced right now have as far as money is concerned. So it's going to, it's a different process for them, and it's going to be a long process for all of these guys to make it to the big leagues. So that's one thing that, again, when you talk about Termarr Johnson and that, the head that he has, right? Like that's so important because it is a very difficult journey to choose to play, baseball. We know about that with Kyler Murray and the Arizona Diamondbacks. That Kyler Murray was drafted number 1 overall by the Oakland A's, or was it over one number? No, it was the first round. I don't
believe it.
First round.
It was
the first round. And Kyler Murray, again, it's understandable considering that where he's at in his career as a football player versus where he would be at right now as a prospect in the Oakland A's system. So, things like that also factor into the equation when other sports can tend to be more appealing to go into.
He was taken 9th overall back in
9th
2018.
overall, and he's the first player to ever be selected number 1 in both drafts.
Yeah, which is insane.
Or not number 1, in the first round of both drafts.
First round of both drafts. Yeah, excuse me. It's insane that, he might be the most athletic, like that's insane to be drafted in the first round in 2 different professional sports is ridiculous.
I think it's Gerardo asked, any chance Drew starts off in low A versus Arizona? I mean,
it's hard to say.
I'm a little doubtful. That might be a little early for him. But
for a high school kid, pretty rare to start off in low A, I would think. So probably not likely. But Drew Jones is definitely a guy who's going to take some time. It's high school. It's not college. He's a young guy, so I think it's going to be a few years before you see him in the big leagues. But he does have an opportunity to move relatively quick. I mean, we've just seen Corbin Carroll, shoot through the minor leagues, even though he suffered a major injury along the way. Like Corbin Carroll still has around 500 professional plate appearances, and he's already one step away from the majors coming out of a high school in Seattle. So we've seen guys move really, really quickly, and that's definitely the exception and not the rule, though. So Drew Jones is someone that you'll want to be patient with. It might take a little bit, but also it might come pretty quickly, and maybe something like what happened with Corbin Carroll could happen here.
Jacob Franklin says, petition to have Drew Jones compete in the home run derby tomorrow. I am for it. I am here for it, Jacob. 1,000%. I think the one thing here with the Diamondbacks and Drew Jones is that I guess they do have that time, right? They have that time to allow him to develop. But I guess this is kind of a facetious question or a facetious idea.
Uh-oh.
After seeing Corbin Carroll's success, would you not sit every prospect with the scouts from now on, whether they're injured or not? I just feel like the information that he gained,
So you're saying maybe Corbin Carroll benefited in the long run from, maybe not benefited from a shoulder injury, but no, I mean,
yeah, right. You can't benefit necessarily from an injury, but he made the best out of his time, right? He could have been sitting around playing MLB The Show and eating Cheetos like I obviously would have been doing had I been injured during that time, but instead he decided to spend all his time around scouts.
And Jordan Lawler was there too. That's how those two got to know each other pretty well. Yeah. So I'm sure there's and especially Corbin, because Corbin Carroll is pretty well known already as being a very cerebral, someone who thinks very deeply about the game. And so for a guy with that kind of mindset to just be able to sit under the tutelage of, some of the Diamondback scouts and some of their player development people, it was, I'm sure, a huge, huge benefit for him.
If you guys haven't done so already, please like this video, subscribe to the PHNX Sports channel if you haven't done so already. We're so glad you're here for the draft day coverage. We know that the Diamondbacks, obviously this is a huge day for the Diamondbacks. We know there's not a lot of coverage out there, so we're happy to bring this to you. And we're also excited to talk about the Diamondbacks at least ending the first half of the season, if you want to call it that, on a high note, right? They take their final game here against the Padres, and they managed to not get swept in San Diego. We discussed the impact of that and the importance of it, but obviously still not that big of a deal if the Diamondbacks kind of petered out there at the end of that stretch against the National League West, because this season is kind of, there's not much that can happen, I really feel like, at this point to change what the Diamondbacks are doing as far as their direction goes going forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so strange how, like, the importance of the Diamondbacks' actual on-field performance is just, like, shifted into the background today, right? Like, suddenly the fact that they're 40-52 in 12 games under 500, and I think Fangraphs had them at a 0% chance to make the playoffs.
0%, yeah. Buster Olney today. Yeah, Buster Olney, I thought we were friends. What the fuck, man? What happened?
Usually you get like a 0.1. I think the Rockies got a 0.1. A lot of other teams that are very much on the outside looking in got a 0.1.
Oh, we were with Cubs, the Pirates, there was a Nationals.
Yeah, they were really in their basement dwelling with some of the other basement dwellers. So
speaking of the Nationals, their pick is in, and they got our man Elijah Green. And again, absolute solid pick for the Washington Nationals at 5th. I really think that Kumar Rocker selection has really shifted things down. Like, these next couple of teams are really going to get a chance to have an opportunity to draft somebody much higher than was going to go in their position. But Brooks Lee did slide in there, as well. So I think the Nationals probably had Elijah Green on their radar and could fall to them. And again, an incredible outfielder, son of Eric Green, somebody who we could absolutely see be a breakout superstar in Major League Baseball.
Jacob says, too bad Elijah won't get to play with Juan Soto.
Oh, that's Juan Soto turned down an ungodly amount
Derek,
of money.
What would you do if I gave you $440 million tomorrow? What would you do?
We talked about this. I don't know what I would do. I have no concept of how I would have the next 15 years of my life planned out like that. That's a crazy amount to be paid. People are saying Juan Soto could end up getting the first $500
$500 million.
$1 billion contract. Fucking nuts, right? But of course, it's for the rest of his career. I don't know, man. What is the idea there? Isn't that what you play for? And do you think Juan Soto will get more money than the Nationals offered him?
The problem, Derek, is that as crazy as $440 million over 15 years sounds, the average annual value is about $29 million on that. And there are quite a few Major League players at this point who make more than $29 million per year. So
you think less years is what he's looking for?
Maybe it's fewer. Maybe they do it that way. Maybe it's fewer years and they bump up the money to get the AAV up just a little bit. But I think that's the logic for Juan Soto is, why am I playing for $29 million a year? When he's arguably, it hasn't had a great first half necessarily, but he did the same thing last year and wound up having a fantastic season when it was all said and done. So he's arguably, the best outfielder in the National League at this point. So you can kind of see where he's coming from.
Yeah, Brian Adala says he can get more if he waits for it, though. And yeah, he's right. And honestly,
if you put a Juan Soto on the open market, like, there's going to be a lot of teams who are interested in a guy like that, and I wouldn't be shocked if he was able to get more than what the Nationals offered him. Although it was reported that the Nationals apparently are going to make another offer, that they have one more offer coming, and then after that, if that doesn't go through, then they would plan to trade Juan Soto, which is a fascinating thing to think about. Like, how could a team even begin to put together a trade package for, a guy who I want to say is like 23 years old. And he's already, basically the best at what he does. It's insane for a guy like that to hit the trade market. So I don't even know what that would look like.
Is his real value just in the future? I mean, because here is what I look at. Like, Juan Soto in his career is batting .293. This season he's batting .250. 56 runs, 42 RBI.
His numbers this year are pretty. He's being Christian Walkered in some ways.
Sure.
Juan Soto has had some very bad luck on balls in play this season, so I don't think the 250 does him justice.
He hit over 300 for the past 2 seasons. In 2020, he led the league in on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS plus. He led the National League in batting average. So, I mean, a lot of this I feel like is based on his performance in the past and showing what level he could potentially reach to. But like,
Yeah.
I think deals like this, once again, are a great example of why like teams like the Tampa Bay Rays don't do this, right?
Yeah.
That's so much money to be given to one guy that theoretically you could pay someone $1 million instead of even $29-30 million a year and still get relatively close to the same output. It's just the level of consistency and things like that, right? Like what we saw with Christian Walker. Christian Walker was a guy that we were actually pretty happy with there after the Goldie trade for just a little bit because he was putting up comparable numbers.
Right.
But then we saw Goldie just continue to get better and better and better, and we didn't see that necessarily out of Christian Walker, and that's why Goldschmidt was one of those, like, in a way, he's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of talent. You want to do everything you can to hold on to those. No matter what it costs you. I'm not bitter about it at all still. But.
All right, Derek, getting back to Drew Jones here. You ready for his high school offensive numbers
I can't wait
this
for
season?
his high school offensive numbers
All
from this
right,
season.
Here we go.
Playing against high schoolers when he has no business doing that. That's unfair.
So he hit 570 with a 675.
A batting average of 570? Are you shitting me?
A batting average of 570 with an on base of 675, a slugging percentage of 1,026, 13 home runs, 39 RBIs, 7 doubles, 3 triples. And get this, he had 33 walks against 9 strikeouts. He had about 4 times as many walks as he had strikeouts. And he also had 32 stolen bases, which is a decent thing to throw on top of all that. So there you go.
Yeah, Jacob Franklin says that the Rangers saved $2 million on slot value taking Kumar. That's interesting. How many picks do the Rangers? I'm interested to see how many picks.
Yeah, I don't know
have.
exactly what the mix of picks looks like for the Rangers, but I did figure. I mean, if you're taking Kumar Rocker number 3 overall, you're probably doing that with the mindset of trying to save a bunch of money up front and then use that money a little bit later. Maybe they have a competitive balance pick, or we'll have to check to see about that.
The Miami Marlins take third baseman Jacob Berry, and I mean this draft is.
You just have a disgusted.
I mean,
tone of
no.
voice.
I mean, it's just again, it's kind of weird because again, this just goes to show you the draft, right? Like things are so all over the place. Thinking of our friend Patrick Lyons, as we were at the Cubs pick on number 7, we get closer and closer to the Colorado Rockies pick at 10. And there is still a substantial amount of incredible talent on the board as far as at least where they're ranked, right? All of this ranking goes out the window because websites can't even agree on it, right? Like, it's different from one website to one website, one expert to another.
They're going to be wrong like most of the time.
They
at the
are.
end of the day.
They are. So that's why I think these picks tend not to, or the teams, they tend not to look at this kind of stuff and tend to actually try to, do things based on what their organization is going through. That's why it's just exciting that the D-backs ended up with Drew Jones. There is a lot of positional needs that the D-backs could have gone with, and there's a lot of things they could have gone, a lot of different direction they could have gone with this draft, considering the number of picks they have. They could have tried to save some of that slot money to go for somebody a little bit, maybe one of these higher guys when they get down the line to their picks in the competitive balance round and in the second round. But again, this is just a fun draft so far. Very, very unpredictable.
Yeah, we have been. I mean, especially the Kumar Rocker thing. I mean, there's no way that anyone saw something like that happening. Just quick talking about Jacob Berry here, who the Cubs selected. He's out of Louisiana State, 21-year-old switch hitter. The main knock with him is there's some positional questions about exactly where he will land in the long run. So Jacob Berry is, I mean, he's listed as a third baseman / outfielder. So there's a possibility he's able to stay at third or maybe moves to a corner outfield at some point. But he's a switch hitter with good plate discipline. So far, he's been a little bit better batting left-handed. But yeah, we'll have to see how things turn out. This is definitely, Derek, this is a spot in the draft that a lot of people pegged as kind of a drop-off point. Drafts tend to have that, right? Where it's like you've got 4 or 5, or in this case, maybe 6 guys who are kind of in the same tier. And then after that point, the level of talent kind of drops off, at least in the minds of scouts. For all we know, Jacob Berry could be the best player in this draft at the end of the day. So it's all a crapshoot.
We know nothing. None of this.
None of this is.
Look,
there are no guarantees in the MLB draft.
If Jesse and I could tell the future, we wouldn't be working here right now. We would have nailed that lotto, this week, that's whatever, the Powerball pick, and we would have been out of here. Jacob fully forgives Josh Van Meter. I do too. I want to make a toast to Josh Van Meter. I said a lot of negative things about you, both publicly and privately, in regards to that home run you hit to give the Diamondbacks the second overall pick.
What's funny is, if anything, it might have saved the Diamondbacks
some money, right? Yeah. Cheers to you, Josh Van Meter. And cheers to our friends at the Four Peaks Brewing Company. Four Peaks Brewing Company is the official beer of this draft, and that's only because I'm drinking all of the beer that we have here in the office. Of course, I am drinking a Joy Bus Wow Wheat, which I am on the Joy Bus right now that the Diamondbacks have Drew Jones. So make sure to check out Four Peaks Brewing Company. All of their wonderful beers, their locations, their food, everything's phenomenal. It's a top-notch company. Their 8th Street pub is haunted by ghosts, so there's extra reasons to go there.
And you can tour the ghosts.
Yeah. We're gonna do that for sure. We gotta get Jesse in there because he needs to hear the whole story.
I did miss the ghost tour.
You did miss the ghost tour.
I kind of missed out that day.
Of course, you can get I hope you guys have plenty of Four Peaks with you to get through this. Michael in the comments says losing tank season didn't turn out so bad. God bless you. You're right about that. Make sure to grab some Four Peaks anywhere you get your beers near you. Convenience store, liquor store, grocery store. It's all over the Valley. Been in the mix here in the Valley since '96. And of course, we love them here at PHNX. We love our kilt lifter. Look, this sign behind me, I'm going to turn this on in a little bit. It's an actual plugged-in sign with a light. Apparently, it makes the cameras go crazy. I don't give a shit. I'm plugging it on.
Derek,
it's a celebration.
Are you implying that we're...
Them all.
Are we still going
Emma
to
unplugged them all. She knew what I was going to do. She's also the one that wrapped a lot of the electrical equipment in plastic wrap because she knew I might lose my shit if they didn't take Drew Jones. But luckily, all of the equipment stays dry and everybody stays happy, including me, because they did the thing I wanted them to do and they took Drew Jones.
Were you implying for a second there that we were going to be live until it was dark outside, and so we'd need to start
yes,
making the signs?
We're
going to
be here for a long time. Yeah, I don't know how long we're going to be here for. The Twins still have the 8th pick. We've been here for a long time already. I don't know where we at. It's 5 o'clock.
We're at about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, man. This is nuts. But the Cubs take Cade Horton, another guy that's kind of off the top of the chart. He lands in, at least with the MLB rank, around 20th. And so
Cade Horton's at 24. Baseball America, that was for MLB Pipeline. Baseball America had him 32. So I guess you could say it's a reach from that perspective, but there aren't many pitchers available here, Derek. And so, there are guys who are, maybe teams are willing to reach a little bit more. Here you can see a 94 to 96 mile an hour fastball. He can touch 98.
I know people were very high on his velocity.
Got the wipeout slider. He dabbles with a changeup. So you can see there's some pieces here that could land a pretty good pitcher for him.
The weakness is their durability and the 2-pitch thing, which a lot of guys in this draft kind of suffer from. I think the ones that kind of stand out as far as pitchers go is guys that have kind of developed that 3rd pitch. It's something that, a lot of these young guys they only really need 2 pitches to be effective at high school level, right? Especially if they're at this elite level.
I mean, if you have one elite pitch in high school, you can probably
if
you
can
probably
locate
be pretty
with your
effective
fastball,
with that.
you can throw it over 90. You're probably going to be pretty damn good,
right?
But again, he's another reach off the board, which just gives some of these guys like the Twins, the Royals, the Rockies, and God forbid the fucking Mets have 2 first-round picks. They're coming up pretty fast. So the Mets, a team right now that really doesn't need much help getting any better, is going to get better in the future with their first 2-round picks. And again, this board is all over the place as far as guys getting picked. Brooks Lee, Kevin Parada still available. Cam Collier, who our friend Patrick was very big on for the Rockies pursuing. Jace Jung. There's quite a few guys still in the top 10 available as we get ready to close out that section of the draft. But I don't know. The Diamondbacks here, I'm still elated about their pick, man. I can't get over this. And it wasn't even that big of a surprise, like I said earlier. it's just still one of those things that like I wanted this thing for Christmas and I got it, and now I'm just sitting
Christmas
here.
in July. Derek.
Yeah, it's Christmas in July. Albert said 73 picks to go. This is going to be a long night. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make it stamina-wise through that, but we do have some of this game that the Arizona Diamondbacks had before we got to this draft going on. Diamondbacks obviously win their final game going into the All-Star break. It's a nice little, I guess, for a team that kind of struggled here going into the All-Star break. It's a nice little pick-me-up to win this final game and not get swept there in San Diego.
Yeah, we almost forgot. They did play a game today.
They
right?
did.
Last game before the All-Star break. We won't see the Diamondbacks play here for a few days after this one. But yeah, it was a good win for them today. Merrill Kelly, Derek, just continues to be a steady presence.
Mainstay Merrill, as they like to call
Merrill
him.
the mainstay.
Merrill the mainstay.
That's what Bert likes to call Merrill Kelly, who has had a phenomenal season for the Diamondbacks, and he's on pace, Derek, for like a 16-win season, which you compare that to poor Zach Gallen, who still out here 4 wins on the season, has never won more than 4 games in a season so far in his young MLB career. Hopefully that gets rectified at some point. But the Diamondbacks haven't had many 15-game winners over the last decade or two, so Merrill Kelly has an opportunity to join that group.
I will say though that the Diamondbacks have had not a rough first half, but I mean, for a while there, it looked like they were going to be a bit better than predicted. And then again, like I said, they slid back into kind of being where we expected them to be right here at the All-Star break. And that probably even coincides with preseason expectations, right?
Yeah.
At least not mine. Mine were a little bit.
What was your preseason prediction
I think
again?
I took 82 and 80 is what I took. It's still very reachable. It's still very reachable. I don't want to hear it.
So they would have to go
it doesn't
42
matter. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter.
And 30?
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Something like that.
Doesn't sound like that's going to happen.
42 and 28, I think.
Yeah, that's not great.
Maybe not super likely. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's stressing too much about the Diamondbacks record on a day like this where Drew Jones has joined the organization.
Yeah.
This is big.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Record right now doesn't matter. Nothing that happened today matters other than Drew Jones. I mean, I think Giselle said it in the chat a while ago. It was a wonderful Sunday. We got everything we wanted, right? Everything we wanted. At this point, by the way, last season, going into the All-Star break, it was at a different time. So this All-Star break's just a little bit later than last year. Diamondbacks only had 26 wins going into the All-Star break.
Yeah.
So again, 40 looks considerably better than 26 at this point.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, something exciting for the Diamondbacks to build on going forward. And this draft just adds to the excitement, right? Corbin Carroll's that close. We got Jordan Lawler and him in the futures game, and now Drew Jones. So, again, I'm not here to entertain any of your tweets about trading him or any references to Dansby Swanson.
I don't really think those comparisons
want Shelby Miller
are fair.
brought up.
Like,
I don't like any of this stuff.
I know
it's
people are probably just, they're probably just scarred from what this organization has done to them in the past, which is understandable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely just PTSD. But the current Diamondbacks regime has not been particularly fond of trading prospects. Even in 2017 and 2018, when the Diamondbacks were kind of in a buying mode, they didn't really trade top shelf prospects in order to get, JD Martinez or some of the other guys that they acquired in those years. So I really don't think that's a huge concern. Mike Hazen is not about to flip Drew Jones in a trade anytime soon. I think we can put that to rest.
Oh, I'm still very worried, Jesse. I don't know, but again, the Diamondbacks did have a good series against the Padres. They had a lead in every single one of these games, and that was, I think, part of the frustration here. They played the Rockies and the Padres very good, but in the end, they end up losing both series, and I think that stands out to me as being very frustrating watching them. They seemed at times like they were in control of both of these series, and then they just let them kind of slip away. So I don't know. Again, this was the way that the other games went, but they were able to maintain a lead and lock things down in this one. For our DraftKings King of the Series, we're going to go ahead and give it to our guy, Carson Kelly, because Carson Kelly, again, somebody that Jesse has talked about at length, how important he is, especially getting him back on track for this team offensively. He hit 400 in this series with 2 runs scored and 2 RBI. Ketel Marte also had an excellent series. So, I mean, this team is again, this series to me is another example of how close this team is to putting things together,
Yeah.
but just at times just shit fell apart for them. And again, that's the difference right now between them and the Padres. Padres are a team that find a way to win even when they're down. The Diamondbacks,
Yeah.
unfortunately, right now weren't able to maintain a lead in these games.
I mean, to be fair, I think there's the difference between the Diamondbacks and the Padres might be a little bit bigger than
oh, come on.
what you're
Come
making
on.
it out to be. To
What are
be
you talking
perfectly
about?
honest,
But the Diamondbacks hung with them. I mean, you say that, right? But the Diamondbacks didn't get blown out in these games. It definitely
Sure.
wasn't like
sure.
when they played the 4 games against the Dodgers where they just seemed completely outmatched. I mean, this is supposed to be the other best team right now in the National League West.
Yeah.
And for the most part, the Diamondbacks were able to handle them. It's that thing we continue to talk about where this team right now isn't good enough to make mistakes that lead to these losses, right? They have to play perfect baseball, and when they can't, that's when they can't beat teams like the Padres. They played damn near perfect baseball in this series.
Yeah.
The mistakes, here and there were really just the things that caused them to lose it 2-3.
Getting back to the draft, it looks like Brooks Lee is the
There we
pick for
go.
the Twins at number 8, which is
That's got to be huge for
the
Twins.
For the Twins, that is a
That's
dream.
incredible.
That's a dream scenario. Brooks Lee was, I think, as of yesterday, pretty much the expected pick for the Orioles at number 1 overall. So it would have been a little bit of a reach. They definitely would have gotten him for under slot value if they'd taken him that high. But I mean, yeah, out of Cal Poly, a college shortstop who doesn't really have many clear weaknesses. I think there's a decent chance that he'll move to third base at some point just because of his size. You can see here some of his strengths and weaknesses. Elite bat discipline, or elite bat speed, the plate discipline is certainly there for him. He's a really, really good overall player, Derek, to take, out of college at number 8 overall.
And he has the versatility to play anywhere on the infield. So again, yeah, because of his size, he might end up having to play at second base or third base, but that's not the worst thing, especially considering where the Twins were able to grab him at this point. Yeah,
I don't think anyone expected him. Number 7 was the lowest I heard of anyone expecting Brooks Lee to be taken. So this is a pretty great situation here if you're the Minnesota Twins.
And the Kansas City Royals now are on the clock with about 45 seconds left. And then once they submit their pick, who the hell knows when we'll actually hear what it is with the way this draft
The pick will be in 35 seconds, and then 10 minutes later we'll actually hear who it is. It's a great system we got here.
By the way, the Royals mascot Slugger looks like he's just straight up harassing people right now in the crowd. Who let these mascots into this draft? Because that person deserves a raise. I want all the mascots there, all fighting each other or something to add to the excitement of this, because there seems to be way more fans at the MLB draft than there actually seems to be people getting drafted. But that's just from my perspective right now. Kansas City, again, has a bevy of selections or a bevy of great picks, but then the Colorado Rockies, man, I mean, again, shout out to our friend Patrick Lyons who jumped on the show. You guys are about to walk into whatever guy you want here. Like, there's going to be so many good, because some of these teams just keep reaching for talent that then has a cascading effect a bit, right?
I mean, Cam Collier is still there, so I think
they're so excited about that.
We're kind of once Brooks Lee is gone, which he now is. Yeah, I think you're kind of past that first tier of players, but there's an argument to be made that Cam Collier actually belongs in there.
The Royals draft war room is probably my favorite one yet. They were wearing powder blue periwinkle coats. It looked kind of like NASA. It was fucking wild.
It absolutely did.
There were so many old people in that room, and I'm not meaning to be ageist, but it was an awkward. It was.
Is it a draft room or Apollo 13?
Exactly. That's what it was looking like. It looked like scientists in a room. They were hugging each other. They're very excited. Kansas City gets Gavin Cross, outfielder from Virginia Tech. So everybody is getting their guy today. And
Patrick Lyons is probably going crazy right now.
Oh, he's losing his mind
Cam
right now.
Collier is still there for the Rockies at number 10, and I've seen him ranked as high as number 2 on, I think that's where Keith Law had Cam Collier. So Rockies have a pretty golden opportunity there at number 10.
Jacob Franklin with a great comment. The Royal selection went so much faster than some of the others. Yeah, what's going on here? Well, how can we get to this stuff faster?
Well, that NASA crew, they're a well-oiled
machine. They knew what they were doing. Oh, man. So now that's it. We got the final pick of the top 10. Rockies are now on the clock. So, again, going back to this series, the Diamondbacks and the Padres, our guy Carson Kelly, king of the series, I think that he
Yeah.
well deserved it, especially considering how he has struggled at times this season and really hitting the ball very hard lately. The home run swing was just a thing of beauty.
It was beautiful.
By the way, in this series.
When Carson Kelly hits a home run, it's
pretty.
It is pretty. Especially beautiful.
It's a nice sound. Everything about it is just a solid, incredible.
All home runs are beautiful, but there's something about Carson Kelly's that I think might be a step above. But you're right. I mean, he's had his struggles offensively for this team, and if they can really get him going offensively, that really would set the Diamondbacks up well. It's kind of unclear, Derek, where Carson Kelly fits in for like the long-term future of the Diamondbacks. As we're kind of sitting here dreaming about the Alek Thomas, Corbin Carroll, Drew Jones outfield.
Sure.
What are the odds that Carson Kelly is still in the mix? I don't really know at this point, but for right now, the Diamondbacks really could use him to kind of get back into form and look a little bit more like the player he was in the first half last year.
M says, why don't D-backs fans include De Los Santos as one of the more exciting D-backs prospect? Absolutely is. He likes Josh Rojas, but De Los Santos is our future third baseman. Yeah. I'm a little bit suspicious that is a De Los Santos burner account. I don't know. Am I off base with thinking that? Can we throw that tweet up there? You guys tell me if this is a burner account or not. I don't know. I'm thinking that because if I was a player, this is the exact thing I would tweet to us or send the message. Why don't people include Derek Montilla as one of the more exciting D-backs prospects? That's all I'm asking. But no, De Los Santos actually is an incredible ball player. These are all guys that we got a chance. Christian Robinson, another name who might fade out as far as people's considerations for one of the team's top prospects after everything he's been through. But both of those guys were in the minor league camp, and both of those guys looked outstanding. So again, I think really right now the Diamondbacks just aren't in a mode to rush anybody's progression. I think they're just trying to let these guys develop in minor leagues and get better.
He said,
"Nah, watch our prospects close." I appreciate it.
That's just what a burner account would say.
That's exactly what a burner account would say. No, he's right. It is. Clutch Connect says he'll be better than Ellis at least. Laugh out loud. That's just mean.
De Los Santos just went through a historic streak offensively.
Oh yeah.
He has been knocking the cover off the ball for Visalia, and on the season, I mean, he's hitting .327 with a .368 on base, .510 slugging percentage. So yeah, I mean, we appreciate the comment because I think you're right. De Los Santos really does deserve more attention than he gets. He has a 60 grade power tool according to MLB Pipeline, which is something that you don't see a whole lot of. I mean, 60 grade power is for real. And that's kind of what you're looking for.
Tops out at 55, right?
Yeah, it's sort of, the 20 to 80 scouting scale is frustrating because, most people, when you ask someone like, hey, rate something on a scale of 1 to 10, it's pretty normal to give, like, if you really hate something, it's like a 1 or a 2. If you really like something, it's a 9 or a 10. On the 20 to 80 scale, it's like, if you really like something, it's like a 55, like maybe a 60. And if a tool is just horrible for a player, it's probably a 40. Like, you don't really touch like 65, 70, 75, 80, or 35 or 30 or 25. You don't really touch those numbers a lot with the scouting scale. So it's a little bit weird how it works. But all that to say, De Los Santos has some real power, and that's something that the Diamondbacks don't have a lot of right now in their minor league system.
You want to use those when you do that? You want to?
I'm always very analytical and intelligent with the things I say, Derek. So I don't need the glasses. But
Mark Zolaire says, "Why don't D-backs fans include Derek Montilla as one of the most exciting D-backs podcasters?" That's what I'm saying. I like Jesse Friedman, but Derek is our future. Hell yeah, Mark! You're goddamn right. I am. But yeah, no. I think that there's the one thing about third base for the D-backs is they don't. Like, aside from De Los Santos, they don't really have a lot of names that you talk about there. They don't even have a lot of names right now on the roster. Shout out to Josh Rojas because he's done an incredible job. But we've also seen him struggle at times at third base, right? We've also seen him not be the sharpest. He just seems very committed to staying there, and he wants to do the best job that he can. And I think,
I still am of the belief that the ideal outcome for Josh Rojas is to kind of be floating around as a utility guy.
I think so too.
That's not to take away, because I know a lot of people hear that and they think that that's saying that Josh Rojas,
like a backup immediately.
Yeah, like you're not like a worthy everyday player, and that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that he has a lot of positional versatility that a lot of guys don't have. And that can really be a way to leverage a player's value when you move them around. Josh Rojas, if you play him every day at third base, like, he's a solid guy to have there. But I think his value only escalates if you start moving him around. And also, at third base, like you want to get some real like power, from a corner infield spot like that. And Josh Ross certainly has some of that, but I don't know if that's like who he is as a player necessarily. Whereas, maybe down the line, there's a way for the Diamondbacks to bring in an everyday third baseman who is a, more of a consistent power threat. And De Los Santos kind of fits that mold a little bit. So we'll see.
The Rockies took right-handed pitcher Gabriel Hughes from Gonzaga, and I can only imagine what our friend Patrick is going through right now, especially considering the guy he really liked way up there still on the board available, as well as a number of guys in between there. But again, we talked about this with pitching. The pitching prospects are few and far between, and honestly, there isn't a single one ranked in the top 10. Brock Porter is still available, but again, another high school guy, whereas some of these pitchers are already in college and they're just that much further along in their development.
Yeah, this is an interesting pick for the Colorado Rockies, going with Gabriel Hughes. Number 26 is where he's ranked. So on paper, it feels like it might be a little bit of a reach. But again, pitching is really, really scarce here. So if you really feel strongly about a pitcher, then it's pretty hard to say exactly when those guys are going to be available, just because they're sort of in high demand in a draft class like this. So, wow, we have a long list of strengths here.
He's a big guy. He got a 97-mile-per-hour fastball that he throws with ease. He's got good wipeout pitch, slider, and a slider. He's got those 3 pitches, which, again, is such a big part for so many of these teams when deciding on a pitcher. There's just guys don't have good third out pitches at this level sometimes. And if they can find somebody that does, it makes these teams feel that they're further along. It's so weird because I think about how the Diamondbacks but I think about the value that they got out of Paul Goldschmidt when they drafted him, right? It's incredible how
they
late
didn't reach for Paul Goldschmidt.
No, that's what I'm saying. Not the reach. I'm talking about how late they got him, right?
Yeah, the 8th round. Crazy.
The one thing about it is that teams really, right? Like, how many guys is Paul Goldschmidt better than in that draft? Hundreds of guys, right? So it's like, you never really know with these drafts in any sport where guys are going to go. There's just so much information being passed along that it's hard to really miss a guy, right? I think it's more about how they fit into your system and their development, where they're at in their progression. The Mets got an absolutely outstanding pick in catcher Kevin Parada. So
yeah,
out of Georgia Tech, like, this is incredible. Damn, the Mets the rich get richer, don't they, when it comes to the Mets, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, getting Kevin Parada at number 11, and then they also have the 14th pick here in just a few picks. So this is pretty much a dream scenario for them. You can see here his strengths 290, 20 plus home run projection. That sounds pretty good. I mean, there are not a lot of catchers out there who can do that. Defense is a little bit of a concern, but I mean, there aren't that many guys who get drafted and immediately are ready to go defensively. So there's going to be some development there. But yeah, I mean, Kevin Parada is a pretty good pick for the Mets at number 11, considering that some people, I saw some people predicting that maybe Kevin Parada could go number 1 overall to the Baltimore Orioles. So this is another pretty good situation for another team, and this time it's the New York Mets.
A lot of talent available there as far as the rankings go in the teens still. Cam Collier at third base still on the board. Jace Jung at second from Texas Tech still on the board. So the Mets, with the 14th pick coming up here in a couple of picks, really could, end up with being the big steal of the draft. I mean,
it's possible
if they keep going for the best top talent. It's weird. Like, again, baseball is what it is, and I don't know if any other sport is quite as, I guess, awkward between the high school talent and the college talent, and where guys really are and their potential and everything. Like, there really is some reaching at times going on, because some of these kids are so not behind, but they have so much developing still to do that you're really trying to look at the raw talent and their ability to do certain things right. It's the reason, again, Tamar Johnson, his ability to just the bat to ball skills, right, were such a big thing. And it's something that, surprisingly, when you're going through the draft and you're reading about these guys, that like some of them have like really even though they're such a high ranking, some of them have really questionable skills about where they could be in the future. I think it's the reason why we see them reach for some of these other players that currently are ranked in the 20s and such for, this first top 10 pick.
Yeah, the Kevin Parada thing is especially interesting because, I mean, this 11th pick is their makeup pick for not signing Kumar Rocker last year. And so, instead of Kumar Rocker, they're getting Kevin Parada, and Kumar Rocker was taken number 3 overall, which is still a shock from what has come out of today. But yeah, I mean, now the Mets will be on the clock again here in a few minutes. So pretty cool situation for them.
Just looking at some of the comments, Jacob Franklin says the Rockies taking a pitcher knowing very well he'll play out his contract and want to get the heck out of Denver. Yeah, right? Like,
I mean, the Rockies have done pretty well drafting position players in general. They've sort of always had a pretty decent group of position players, but you kind of wonder, Derek, if a lot of teams, are looking for the best player available. You kind of wonder if the Rockies might have kind of been looking for the best pitcher available, at least maybe if, some of the position players were off the board, that they were going to go pitching all the way. And Gabriel Hughes is certainly a guy who has risen up draft boards quite a bit. He had a really good season this spring for Gonzaga. So he's sort of been on the rise. And like we said, he doesn't really have any clear weaknesses at this point. He shows the ability to throw 3 pitches already. So for a guy out of college who could theoretically move pretty quickly through their system, it seems to be a decent pick, even though I know Cam Collier is probably the guy that our buddy Patrick would have preferred there. So we'll see.
I mean, again, this is kind of like our thing with Drew Jones, right? There's things that internally within the organization that they may have thought or another direction that they would have gone, right? But it's kind of frustrating to us watching as fans, watching at people that like we do a bunch of research on these players, and then all of a sudden a team wants to take a guy that's ranked 27th with like the 6th or 7th pick, right?
Right.
Like it makes you feel on one hand like we have no idea what we're talking about. It makes you feel on the other hand.
I mean, we don't.
We don't. We have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. But of course, it makes you wonder what they know about them and what did they see that they liked. I mean, this is obviously why they have all of this stuff, right? Like the combine and stuff to look at these guys, because again, you can go based on scouts, you can go based on information passed along, but sometimes when the people within the organization see these guys up close and personal, their feelings change about this shit, right? Like it's really quick. It's really easy to all of a sudden want to do something different, or go with a different guy that all of a sudden you think just you have a hunch on. Like, man, look at this guy. He looks incredible out here compared to all of these other, players that are here. But I'm very excited about this, Jesse, because it didn't take much time. Drew Jones, he's already updated his Instagram account.
He's on board. Oh, okay.
Yeah, baby. He's at D-backs.
He already has 138,000 followers.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
That's quite a few. Heart emoji, athlete, D-backs. See, all heart, athlete, D-backs. This guy's already my favorite D-backs player already. It's like Jacob said earlier, put him in the home run derby.
It is cool that, I mean, it's probably not going to be too long before we see Drew Jones out at Chase Field. Even though it's going to be a few years probably before he's there, playing every single day. But generally speaking, these high draft picks get a chance to come out to Chase Field, and they kind of make a big deal out of them coming out and
Jacob says my man has a famous father. Yeah, we get it.
He does have a famous father.
We get it.
And he also has like basically the same name as his father.
Right. I'm sure people confuse them and follow him because they think he's Andrew Jones. Whatever.
Very possible.
I'm still very excited
Todd
about
just
that.
Took another shot at the Rockies and said, "What star on the Rockies does not want out of Denver eventually?"
Hey,
that's brutal.
Hey, there's a lot. Let's not throw stones when we still live in a glass house around here. Anthony says, I just subscribed, so I'm wondering from a Diamondbacks fan perspective, do you guys think the Marlins chose Jacob Berry as an underslot draft pick? That's a great, I don't know. He went right about where he was predicted to go. Yeah. It's just a matter sometimes of these guys moving up a couple of spots. It's different from like Kumar Rocker and Gabriel Hughes, for instance, Cade Horton. Those are guys that were like way farther down. So in a way, it's it's players being high on them, but when they go ahead and draft those guys, they're now paying them more than those guys would have essentially received. Like, yeah, they can definitely negotiate with them because they did take them earlier. They reached a little bit, so maybe they can offer them a little bit less. That'll save them money, especially when you talk about having like the 8th pick and taking someone ranked 24th, right?
Sure.
But I mean, that money has to be spent in the drafts, kind of allocated in the draft. So I'm thinking a part of it is how many draft picks do some of these teams that are reaching have? Like, I understand that about the Orioles. I don't know about the Texas Rangers taking Kumar Rocker and how many picks the Texas Rangers have in this draft right now. I'm not familiar with that. But again, if they have several like the Orioles or even the D-backs do, then I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I do think I don't know enough to say exactly how big the gap would be, but I do think Jacob Berry is at least a candidate to get under slot, taking him at 6th overall. It is roughly where he was expected to be taken, but I think, Brooks Lee was taken after him, so there's certainly some big names. And they were linked to
Brooks Lee. They were linked to Kevin Parada. They were linked to some of these guys that, to be honest, went after them. So, like, I guess it makes sense, but, like, again, how many picks do they have? How do they feel about Kumar Rocker? Like, Kumar Rocker is kind of an enigma. Yeah. Right? Like, he was a very highly touted guy at one point, and his at least his draft career has been a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, it really has.
He's been through a lot for a guy who hasn't, like, stepped on, I guess the Frontier League is technically professional baseball, but not what you're talking about when you're talking about playing in the minor leagues or actually being a part of a big league organization. So he's been through quite a bit to get to this point. He has. And getting picked number 3 overall is a pretty happy ending for Kumar Rocker.
What I'm saying. Like, what a bunch of ups and downs. What a roller coaster ride for him. And then it does end up being a pretty good spot for him, much higher than he would have gone at any point, which was kind of the idea there with him at one point. They were deciding if drafting him was worth it because he could go back to college and try to re-enter the draft at a later time. But yeah, I mean, what a wild draft. And again, I mean, that then kind of influences the way people think about you, right? What has happened with him in the past dictates that a lot of experts that were breaking down the draft thought that he would go much lower because of that.
It's all like, I don't know how much of this is like Kumar Rocker's fault or anything like that. It's just the health questions that were there. It seemed like there were some health details that were not shared, at least not well enough. And so when the Mets picked him at number 10, once they saw, all this information coming out, they were like, we don't even want to try to sign this guy for, what it would command at the spot that they took him. So we did have Anthony ask earlier, talking about Jacob Berry again, if he's going to stay at third base, move to first base or the outfield. I'm certainly not a seasoned expert on Jacob Berry's progression so far, but my understanding is that there's just questions there. I think third base is the hope, and he's shown a lot of willingness to work at it and try to make it so he is able to land at third base and be as valuable as he can. But it sounds like there's some optimism that his bat could be good enough to play even if he winds up in a corner outfield spot or even at first base. So that's the best answer I can give on that.
Clutch Connect says watching Drew Jones highlights the past half hour has been as comforting as a Bob Ross baby.
Yeah, you couldn't really watch them before because you knew that something might happen and the Diamondbacks might not.
You don't want to get your heart broken again.
Right,
I've had my heart broken before, and I didn't want my heart to get broken again. But no, we're committed now. We're in a relationship. We're boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever you want to say, and I'm excited about it. I'm here for it. More than anything, I think that it's an opportunity to not criticize the Diamondbacks for missing on a guy, right? Because if the Diamondbacks would have done what some of these other teams are doing right now in the draft, Jesse would be very even-keeled, but I would be losing my shit. Like if the Diamondbacks would have taken Kumar Rocker with the 2nd overall pick, I mean, what would have happened?
That would have been something.
I would have smashed something.
I mean, Kumar Rocker could be a great pitcher. Like,
no,
maybe,
he very well could be,
know.
right? But it's the idea there. Again, it's all the perception. It's the way that we rank these guys. It's the way that experts have ranked them. So then we look upon their information as very accurate. But again, this is just scouts and experts suggesting, who is ranked where, which teams like certain guys, and then that all kind of
It's like the Suns and Cam Johnson, right? Like everyone thought they were insane.
Great point. Yeah. But it really was about Cam Johnson just being further along and them looking for a guy that was a bit more seasoned that could immediately make a bigger impact on the team rather than a guy that needed to be developed. Is this the Angels pick? Did they take Jace Jung, or is this who took Jace Jung, or are they just talking about it? We're on mute, so we have no idea what's going on. We're just Oh, the Tigers took Jace Jung. Okay, awesome. Yeah, again, see some of these guys, some of these teams with a lower draft pick right now are kind of cleaning up a bit, right? Or not lower, but I mean, in the teens, because some of these early teams have reached, and again, the Diamondbacks and other teams are just taking that best available player, which honestly, let's do that. Let's go with the best available player. Jacob Franklin says, can we talk about San Diego having pick 15 and having so much talent still available? No, we fucking can't, Jacob. I don't want to talk about that. Of course.
Jacob is really on board with the 2025 D-backs.
Yeah, he doesn't want anything to get in the way of that.
Who's going to get in the way, who the main contenders are going to be.
Right. Well, that's what the Padres do, right? The Padres are a young team. They're an exciting team, and honestly,
they've done a pretty darn good job of developing talent.
Yeah.
I mean, almost everyone in that Padres organization is someone that they've developed themselves. I know they've gotten out and gotten guys like Trent Grisham and of course Manny Machado. Yes, but a lot of the young, exciting talent in that Padres system are guys that are homegrown, that they drafted, that they developed. So C.J. Abrams, we've seen him a little bit over the weekend. There's some pretty exciting young players there. So it's crazy, Derek, how much it does for your organization when you excel at not only drafting but developing players and helping them, take the next steps that they need to in order to work their way to the majors. And the Padres have shown themselves to be pretty good at that part of things.
There is so many 2025 World Series championship discussion going on in the chat, and I love it. Of course, our friend Joshua at Roof and Panels Open, which I love his Twitter handle, he tweeted out, Drew Jones could have gone 1 of 1. Jordan Lawler could have gone 1 of 1. Corbin Carroll should have gone in the top 10. The D-backs have gotten their man year after year in the draft. That's
a good point.
That's exactly the point, right? I mean, the Diamondbacks continued to get guys that shouldn't have even been there when it was their turn to pick.
Yeah.
And again, Drew Jones, I know it's not that big of a surprise. We've heard about it. We've heard since last year.
It's real now, Derek. It's
real now, Jesse. I can't fucking believe it. It's so good. And I don't know. I guess it's just it feels a little bit like when the Arizona Cardinals drafted Kyler Murray, where you're just like, this is the guy. I'm so glad that there was no like nothing.
Sure. Is that the best Arizona sports comp that you can make for this draft pick? Kyler Murray to the Cardinals? I don't know,
because Kyler Murray was the number 1 overall pick. DeAndre Ayton, there's still questions about. Honestly, we're going through right now this whole thing with Ayton,
been a fun ordeal, hasn't
so
it?
that right there, I mean, with Luka existing and being as good in the NBA as he is, there's never. It's going to be hard for the Suns to ever feel like they got the right guy, even though Ayton might have fit into the team better than Luka would have, considering the way the team's comprised, right?
Yeah.
That's what kind of transfers over to this draft. In a way, it's more about, drafting the best guy. I am never taking this tie off, so this stays on the whole time. I am an important, smart draft what is it?
Analyst.
I am an important draft analyst today, Saul. So I'm trying to show it here. I'll put the glasses back on. They're a little foggy right now, but I'm still rocking them. I'll never talk bad about DA, but you have to admit, and Saul, you can admit this. That's the problem when you have like the number 1 overall pick. There's always going to be questions about if you got the right guy.
Yeah.
And especially with Luka being the talent he is, there's always going to be that, right? But I get you. I love DeAndre Ayton, and I think the Suns made the fantastic move, everything considered. It's kind of like the slot value thing that we're talking about, right? The Suns kind of did some things where they made DeAndre Ayton's value not seem so high. A team offered him less than the Suns would have ended up paying him for a max contract. The Suns can match, and in the end, it seems like a brilliant play, right? So with the slot value thing, again, Drew Jones slipping to second, I mean, he's going to make a little less money than he would have at first, but for the most part, it's still going to be that same amount of money.
What I'm fascinated by, I personally don't have any friends who root for the Baltimore Orioles. I don't know if you do, Derek.
Oh no.
But I am fascinated. Yeah, I mean, do those people exist? Are there
I think
Baltimore
they
Orioles?
do.
I
Yeah,
think
oh yeah.
There's some
I've
of them out
seen
there.
shots of their ballpark. They have way more fans than we do.
That's probably fair.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious what this is like from an Orioles fan perspective. Like, are you on board with the Orioles, using this strategy of trying to go below slot, trying to like come away with the best collection of
Sure.
talent rather than just picking, the player that,
Bo
Bo
Brack is an
Bo is an
Orioles,
Orioles
fan?
fan? Interesting.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I feel differently about him
Yeah.
now. I'm definitely judging him. I definitely have the white wig on, and I'm judging him right now.
I don't know. It's interesting to me that the Orioles have like stuck with this strategy for a number of years. And unfortunately for them, they've been in this position a lot where they've had high draft picks and they've had to kind of make decisions about whether they were going to target, the elite talent or whether they were going to try to come away with kind of the best collection of talent as Derek is building a
I'm
nice
building
little
castle,
little castle over
beer
here.
cans. It's fine. Well, and I mean, that's kind of what the Diamondbacks kind of have going for them, right? Like, they have no idea who the talent is going to be available when they get there to their competitive balance pick and their second round pick. The way things are going right now, I mean, things are all over the place. You have no idea who's going to drop, who's going to be available there at that point. Jace Jung off the board. Another guy that just came off the board, Zach Neto, shortstop from Campbell. So, again, another... kind of, right? Zach Neto is the next one that came off the board. So, I don't know. There's still a lot of pitchers available that, even though, again, the pitching class wasn't great, the majority of what was considered to be the best pitching prospects are still available.
Yeah.
Brock Porter, Dylan Lesko, Brandon Barreria, Robbie Snelling. I know I got Brandon's name wrong.
Barriera?
Barrier? No. Can't get it. I'm not going to get that one. I should be better at that because I'm pretty sure that's a Hispanic nickname and I should be able to.
Come on, Derek. You're
I
from Puerto
can't.
Rico.
Bararia. No, it's not happening. I'm not getting it. I'm telling you right now. But again, the Mets now get the 14th pick. Let's see. Daniel Susac is available. Is Cam Collier still available? I mean, man, I can only imagine the emotions Patrick Lyons is going through as Cam Collier continues to remain available. But the Mets, I just fear the Mets. The Mets are another team that I fear are going to continue to get better with all of these high draft picks and the guys that are available to them right now.
Yeah, this is interesting. I did not think that Cam Collier would fall as far as he has. He's a potentially elite talent sort of a guy. He's also, I think, one of the youngest people who could be drafted.
17 years
he
old.
Is 17 years old. He has not yet turned 18.
That shit. Does he even have a car yet? Does he have a driver's license?
I
What
mean,
the hell?
Yeah, like barely, if so. He'll probably have a car after he signs for however much money he's about to get when he does get taken. But we'll see.
Arizona catcher Daniel Susac. He's still available on the board. He's the 10th player in U of A history with 100 plus hits. Or do I have to say Arizona now? What do I say? Do I just say the Northern Nogales, Tucson Tech, whatever? From that school down there that Saul. I'm already dead to Saul, so I'm just gonna fucking dig in and go in hard. Your school sucks and I hate it. But he is the 10th player in Arizona history with 100 plus hits. So he's another guy that's very good. And we'll see. Jet Williams comes off the board again. Another guy ranked in the 20s coming off the board right now. Earlier, like, do you think these guys pay attention to this and think like, shit, I should have been drafted by now? Or do you think they don't? Like, is that egotistical to think that? Like, I don't know how somebody who's ranked in the top 10 would feel about still being available here as we go on to the 15th pick. Like, the Padres could end up with the 8th.
The Padres could get
prospect here.
Padres could get Cam Collier, which is kind of insane.
Oh man,
Jet Williams, Jacob is absolutely right. Jet Williams is the ultimate baseball name.
Oh, that's such a good. Yeah, that is such a good. That's not even a nickname. That's like his actual name.
That's like his actual name
with two T's.
That's a pretty great. That's a pretty good starting point.
Jesus.
But no, so Jet Williams is an interesting player, not just because he has an incredible name, but because he is quite possibly the smallest player out of the top 250 who will be drafted in the MLB draft. I mentioned Tamar Johnson earlier. He's 5'10", 175.
Allegedly.
Jet Williams, allegedly. Jet Williams is listed at 5'8", 175 as a shortstop, which, again, we've seen guys, in around that range, who can be productive major league players, but he is a little bit undersized, but nonetheless, still certainly has a lot of talent, and there's a reason that he was taken this high in the MLB draft.
I'm not a big man, but when I see guys being drafted 14th overall in Major League Baseball at 5'8", I want to have some conversations with my high school baseball coach. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was definitely
there
their
was times
fault.
where I was discouraged for my size, and I don't really feel like I'm a small man myself, but holy shit, it does make me jealous. That's why it's important. You guys need to support people that are doing sports and not do what my coaches did to me and tell me I was fat and too small.
Did your
my
coaches tell
coaches
you that?
were awful. Yeah, my coaches were really bad in high school. Yeah, but I also went to a high school where it seemed like a lot of the athletes were already predetermined who was going to make the team before they even held any kind of tryouts or anything like that, right? So
the coach's kid, bats first and catches.
Oh yeah. Well,
and pitches.
Shout out to the 1 year I went to high school in Puerto Rico, because my coach in Puerto Rico saw me as like Charles Barkley. He thought I was like the greatest power forward talent he had ever come across.
Wow.
And I did everything I could to make him feel like he was right. I don't know. I didn't feel that way about myself, but
so did your baseball coach, did they work with you on stuff, or did they just basically say you're good for nothing?
Yeah, that second thing.
Yeah, that one. Okay. All right.
Pretty much. I got something similar in freshman football too, but that was because I didn't like the way that my head felt when I got hit wearing a helmet. So,
which is fair.
Yeah, I knew right away I wasn't a football player. I knew from the first time I put that godforsaken helmet on my head that I was not a football player. Saul says keep going, which kind of worries me in reference to what that was about exactly.
I think it was your
attacking U of A,
attacking
Northern
school
Dallas,
down in Tucson. Yes.
Clutch Canuck says Jet Williams sounds like a failed 90s kids show. That's fantastic. That show is definitely on Nickelodeon for sure, and I watched it. Best name in baseball, Lars Nootbaar. Nootbaar for sure. Great name.
St. Louis Cardinals organization. Yeah, Lars Nootbaar. It's that's a pretty good one, Derek. I don't know if we can come up with something that would compare with
Nap
that.
LaJoy.
What?
Nap LaJoy.
That's a name?
That's a name of a player. Yes. Absolutely. He died in 1959, and he was a player in the 1800s.
Wow, that was a great story, Derek.
1896 through 1916 was his baseball career. But I think that I want to say he was such a good player that for a period of time the Cleveland Indians were named the LaJoys. They were actually named after him. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. But
wow, you have a whole team named after you.
Cleveland Naps is what they called them. Yeah, the Cleveland Naps, and that was after him. So, can you imagine being such a fucking good baseball player that the team just names the team after you?
So, what would this be? What would this be for the Diamondbacks right now? Then,
I'm pretty sure the Arizona Mantiplies.
The Arizona Mantiplies,
or just the Arizona Mantiply. Oh, thank you, Chris K. Nap LaJoy. Whatever. I'm not getting that. He's a Frenchman. I don't speak French, but yeah, for sure that. Great. I know my friend Steve Zinsmeister is going to never let me hear the end of mispronouncing that, because he's a big fan of the Cleveland Indians, and he's the one that told me about the Naps. So yeah, again, I can't imagine a player being so good that's what the name. Lars Nootbaar, though, going back to that, that's definitely a Star Wars name, right? Lars
Nootbaar
kind
of sound like a Star Wars name.
Yeah, that's a guy that Han Solo met in the cantina on Tatooine for sure. Where are we at now? The San Diego Padres pick is in, and I don't want to hear it. I don't care.
Speaking of Star Wars, aren't we doing we are giving away something or other,
Jesse,
right?
Yeah, you're right. We are giving away a Star Wars shirt. I have it right here next to me.
Ooh.
It is this Star Wars shirt, getting you ready for D-back Star Wars Night on June 23rd when they come back from the All-Star break against the Washington Nationals. Yes, if you are asking, is that a cover? Is that the cover of Return of the Jedi VHS tape from 1996? You would absolutely be correct about that. It's not a polo. It's a button-up shirt. It's a button-up shirt. It's by Roosevelt's, and it is fantastic. It is the ultimate shirt to wear to Star Wars night for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And you know what? I got all of my names ready. So, Jesse, we're doing this right now.
Okay.
I got everybody. We didn't have a lot of them. But, hey, I understand.
We've had a lot of very highly sought after giveaway items.
I get it. I understand. I'm not
this one.
I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying you guys really let me down. That's all
It
I'm
just
saying.
means if you entered, you have a pretty darn good chance
You have
of
a
winning
damn
this.
good
So
chance.
I hope you're tuned in right now.
You have a damn good chance of winning this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the button right now. Let's get this thing going. Click to spin. There's about 10 entrants into this. And our winner on Twitter is at Pop-Tart _515.
Nice.
So if that's you, at Pop-Tart _515, you just won this absolutely gorgeous shirt, which retails for $70, by the way. It actually
wow,
does.
that retails. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
that retails for $70. We don't mess around on this show. It's our draft show. We're hooking you guys up. $70. This isn't a free. I was going to bring the Serpiente shirt. I know you guys would have liked that way more. I don't care. I'm bringing that one. That's the one I brought. That's the one that our friend Pop-Tart is getting. So shout out to you on Twitter. I'm going to try to find his actual name. But until then, we will
I think
just
Pop-Tart 515.
we're just calling him Pop-Tart from
good
now on.
starting
Yeah,
point
absolutely. Absolutely. Again, we thank you guys for joining us on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. We can't thank you enough. This is our most exciting show, I think, of the year, besides opening day. That was fun with me, Michaela, and you. Seth Beer hitting that walk-off. That was a blast. But as far as the Arizona Diamondbacks are concerned, the future really is where we're looking and what we're trying to get excited about, right?
Yeah, it's bright, man. I mean, I know it's been a rough few years for Diamondbacks fans, but you kind of started feeling that the excitement for this organization was growing, especially this season, just as Alek Thomas is now in the majors, as Corbin Carroll is a step away, as Jordan Lawler knocks the cover off the ball in Visalia and is now up with Hillsborough. There's a lot of excitement in this organization. And it's also cool, Derek, how like the prospects are like, they're kind of neatly arranged as far as their timelines go.
It is.
Like
it's
Corbin
a nice
Carroll,
little conga line,
yeah,
right?
Corbin Carroll is like just right on the doorstep. And then you've got Jordan Lawler, like kind of right behind him, maybe a year or two away. And then now you've got Drew Jones to add to that mix, who's just right behind him. And of course, there's a lot of other prospects in there as well. But I mean, those three guys, those are going to be the headliners for this organization. And, you know, once one comes up, it theoretically is only going to be a year or two before you see the other one. And it should keep baseball interesting in the Valley for a long time.
By the way, Pop-Tart's name from Twitter is Pop-Tart.
It's Pop-Tart.
It's Pop-Tart. Okay. So, Pop-Tart, thank you for being a part of our contest. We'll get you that shirt out. We'll have to contact you through DMs and we'll get it out to you for sure. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Alek Thomas really is a catalyst here.
Yeah.
Because Alek Thomas right now is the prototype for how good these young talent could be when they reach the major league level.
And he hasn't even Alek Thomas has played well, but I don't think Alek Thomas is showing us like anywhere near the player that he can be eventually.
He's kept the ball on the ground a lot. He's had a lot of infield
his ground
hits.
ball rate is very, very high.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna, he's working on finding ways to try to get a little bit more elevation in his swing. That's going to be big for him. But because of how good he is defensively, Alek Thomas has been an extraordinarily valuable player for the Diamondbacks anyway. Derek is very frustrated. Derek, why are you so frustrated?
The Padres
right
got Dylan Lesko, which was, I think, essentially the highest ranked pitching prospect on. No, Brock Porter's still available, right? So I guess he would be the top ranked.
A lot of people say that Lesko has like the best arm overall in the draft.
Sure.
He has consistent mechanics, precision 97 mile an hour fastball. He has an elite level changeup, which is oftentimes a pitch that young guys develop a little bit later. They might just have kind of a feel for it, but it's something that comes a little bit later in their pro career. For him to be at that point already with his changeup is pretty impressive. The big thing here, Derek, is that Dylan Lesko underwent Tommy John surgery in April of 2022. And that, of course, brings questions with it because we all know what Tommy John surgery can do to guys. And even though it's a more predictable process now and it's, a lot of Tommy John surgeries have been done, it's still quite an undertaking to come back from that procedure.
For sure.
So, but Dylan Lesko, I mean, if a guy just had Tommy John surgery and is still getting taken in the top 15, I mean, that shows you how high he could have been taken if he was fully healthy.
Yeah.
So a high ceiling sort of a pick here for San Diego.
Probably like a 1-1A with Brock Porter, considering where he is at as far as his Tommy John surgery and everything like that. He's the first underclassman to ever win the Gatorade National Player of the Year award, which is obviously, a big thing. Like you said, this might be a chance for a team like the Padres that's already very good to kind of sneak in and take the best pitching prospect in the entire draft.
Yeah, he has a really bright future. I've heard a lot of great things about Dylan Lesko. The other thing here, Derek, is that Cam Collier is still on the draft board, 15 picks in, which is pretty crazy.
And it's really interesting to see if we see now kind of a run a bit on some of these pitching arms because there's not many in the first round, and they were all considered to be right around Dylan Lesko as far as where they were ranked and where they could be selected in the draft.
Yeah. I know Jacob mentioned earlier in the chat, just thinking ahead to the D-backs next picks, which are still a little ways away here, number 34, then number 43. Jacob, I think, mentioned that the Diamondbacks are probably looking at pitching there, which I think is a pretty accurate assessment of the situation. Some of these guys, there's a few pitchers who have recently had big procedures like Tommy John surgery that might have pushed them down the draft board, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Diamondbacks try to see if they could pull something like that off with their next pick. They didn't really save on slot. I don't think you're getting Drew Jones for really any less than slot value, but the Diamondbacks might have a shot at getting a decent pitcher at number 34 and number 43.
The Cleveland Guardians pick is in, and it is outfielder Chase DeLauter from James Madison. And again, another pick right. Like, again, these guys now aren't too far off from where they were in the draft as far as where we thought we would see him go. He was ranked 18th on MLB's ranking. But again, there's still just some names still available on the board much higher that you would think some of these teams would be interested in kicking the tires on. But the one thing about Chase is he's been considered an above average hitter. Again, one of the best hitters in the draft. He's got a lot of power and a great arm. So
he's a big guy.
He's a big guy.
235.
Yeah, for sure. Weaknesses are bad swing mechanics. He seems to always like swing for the fences, which again, that's kind of a young, inexperienced player, but something that teams can definitely work with. And again, there's the issues with making consistent contact, and that's like kind of like Elijah Green. I think that was what people were seeing out of Elijah Green, a lot of swings and misses and not making the contact that they would like to see, especially out of a player really trying to show that they're ready for for majors, right? Like, I could only imagine being a young player trying to show off what you can do, right? Especially when you get to like playing. I'm not talking about playing at the high school level like some of these guys are playing, because like you said, Drew Jones put up video game numbers, against high school
Which,
talent.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of guys who get drafted this high, their high school numbers are insane.
Right.
570 batting average is another level of insane. But yes.
But what I'm saying is like, again, it's different though once they start playing club ball and some of these other like perfect game and some of these things where they get into it to show off their skills. And again, that could make a big impact on where they end up, because so many of these guys are considered elite players, and honestly, every team is looking for something different.
Well, Cam Collier is still there.
We're gonna keep talking about that until he's gone.
Do you think it's Cam Collier is 17 years old. Derek, what were you like at 17 years old?
Oh my God. Let's see.
It's a burning question that's been on my mind.
At 17 years old, I had no idea what I wanted to do for a living. I had no idea where.
I mean, it's 17 years old. That's okay though.
I think but that's the difference between these guys, right? Like, so many of these guys, they've kind of known what they were going to do since they were 10, and now they're getting to live that dream by having their name called today. I had no fucking direction in my life at 17 years old at all. I wanted to be a writer. but I was discouraged from that. Just like my athletic career, I was discouraged from.
Did you have like a writing teacher or something?
No, actually, I was so I was a teacher's assistant for an English teacher who thought I was an incredible writer.
Oh,
And,
okay.
shout out to Mrs. Gasparak, by the way,
There
from
you go.
Greenway, right? And that's what it's about, right? That's why it's so important, I think. I mean, when I think about my personal journey, I had so many people kind of deter me from what I wanted to do and try to tell me that it wasn't easy, there wasn't a great chance of having success in doing it, and that it was gonna be something that, you know, maybe I gave up on after a while, right? And that's very similar to what I imagine baseball players go through, right? It's very
Yeah.
difficult, especially like when you consider these kids to be 12 years old, they're probably a solid athlete at several sports, right? And they're still trying to figure life out and what they want to do.
Sure.
And I don't know if I would encourage my kid to play baseball because it's fucking hard, right? It's
Yeah.
fucking hard. It's not an easy life. And this day is so important for so many of these guys. The Philadelphia Phillies taking with the 17th pick Justin Crawford, son of MLB player Carl Crawford, on stage hugging his family. I mean, again, this is what I talked about earlier. To see these guys getting this moment, I get that it's important to have it in your life with your friends and stuff, but this is a great moment. And Justin
Yeah.
Crawford, another guy that was ranked
Like
a little
his-
bit higher. So the
Yep.
the Phillies got a pretty good selection at number 17.
Yeah, looking here at his strengths, following in the footsteps of his dad, he's an elite runner. Carl Crawford, I remember growing up, I always loved watching him run the bases. Exceptional bat-to-ball skills as well. He is a five-tool athlete, which for a guy taken number 13, or at least ranked number 13, that's a pretty cool spot for him to be in. As far as weaknesses are concerned, Justin Crawford lacks power at the plate. His arm strength is also a little bit limited, so there's certainly things for him to iron out. But in a bit of a similar spot here, Derek, as his father being drafted as an outfielder who runs the bases pretty darn well.
And another famous father who has an athletic son that is being selected pretty high here in the draft. That's kind of been almost the key here, right? There's been so many solid athletic children of stars like that. All these guys make me feel old because I remember watching their fathers,
Yes.
myself, and I don't need to be reminded of how
I mean,
old
I
I am.
remember watching pretty much all their fathers too, so it's not you're not the only one, Derek.
You're old too, Jesse. That's why
I
I hate to tell you. You're not getting drafted in the first round at
No.
your age now, Jesse. I'm just telling you
It's
that.
true. It's true.
Jacob said there's no rhyme or reason to the pacing of these picks. Some take 10 minutes, others take 2. Yes, it's the MLB draft. Nothing makes sense, and we're going to just be here forever until the end of time. He has 80 grade speed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
80 grade speed. You were just giving us a breakdown on
Yeah,
what the
you
hell
know,
that means,
80s
right? I thought
80s
guys
are
weren't supposed to
not-
have that.
80s are not thrown around lightly. If you have 80 grade speed, that is, that is legit. So that's sort of the main thing for him. Obviously, speed is not, at least in the major league, speed is not a tool that is going to make a player in and of itself. I mean, we've seen guys like Billy Hamilton come through and have a pretty tough time sticking in the big leagues.
You still have to
but
get on base somehow,
You
right?
still have to get there somehow. It's true. But it seems like Justin Crawford has the tools in place to be able to do that part as well. So cool for him and his family for sure.
I'm seeing about 6 players still ranked in the top 20 available on the board. Cam Collier, Brock Porter, Daniel Susak. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this develops from here. I'm still rocked by the Kumar Rocker selection. Like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. Does that happen in other sports? Our friend Shane Diefenbach is here, so I got to refer to Shane. Does it ever happen? Like, do you ever see something as crazy as like a guy predicted for the second round to pop up in the top 5? Or is this more of a situation where, baseball is once again very weird?
And baseball's gonna baseball. You see it sometimes in the NFL if but usually it's trading back, and you don't see trading back a lot in baseball.
Right. Well, because they can't trade their
Well, yeah,
picks.
you
Like,
can't
so
trade
that's
the
the
pick.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So
yeah,
I didn't
that-
even know that.
right. Yeah. Like,
Well,
so
there we
that's
go.
the reason why. That's the reason why baseball again is so.
So,
weird.
yeah,
like
it's
you
weird.
can trade the competitive balance picks, right? But you can't trade.
Yeah, you can't trade like
Is it first round picks or?
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't trade those.
So
That's
I mean,
that's how much I pay attention.
well,
to
no,
the
we
MLB
were.
draft.
I questioned that myself. Don't feel bad, like because I actually asked Jesse at one point on one of our shows, like, could the Diamondbacks trade the second overall pick? I mean, if it's one of those situations where they could move back a couple, he said,
what
no,
you
that's
can
not.
do is you can draft Dansby Swanson and then trade him within.
Oh, I hate that. I
a
hate
few
that you
months.
just said that. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, go ahead. What were you saying now?
No, that's it. That MLB's weird.
Yeah, but NFL definitely doesn't see anything. Any of the other drafts. I mean, I think for the most part, you always have teams reaching a bit, right? You always have what we've seen a little bit here, right, in the teens, where guys maybe, teams are going with someone ranked 14th with the 13th pick, or 17th with the 12th pick, or whatever. But I mean, a couple of these picks that have just kind of reached deep into the 20s and 30s, really, I feel like kind of, I guess, throw it off just a little bit. But then again, man, I couldn't imagine licking my lips as far as having like a pick in the teens right now with some of these guys, some of the teams are passing up on.
Yeah, I mean, like the MLB pipeline rankings are like that's our perspective, right? Like that's how we view the draft.
That's what we're going based on.
Teams
right?
are not, they're not happy that they got, a guy who was ranked by MLB pipeline at 13. Like if they get him at 16, they're not really paying attention to that sort of thing, right?
They're not like, that's a huge win for us.
Yeah,
right?
they're not drafting based on, the big boards of Keith Law and MLB Pipeline and Baseball America and those sorts of things. But from the outside looking in, these lists still give us a good feel for where these guys probably would wind up. And a lot of the guys who make these sorts of lists also worked as scouts or worked inside of big league front offices. So they certainly know what they're talking about. But, each team is going to have the different things that they value the most. So
sure.
There's
like
definitely going to be some disagreement there.
There's not really reaching that far technically out of the top 25 players, right?
Yeah.
And it's based on positional needs for the franchise. It's based on what their scouts have seen in these guys. Like baseball probably is the one sport that you have no idea really what a player is capable of. You're just going based on raw potential and what you think they eventually could be. With other sports, these guys, some of them are ready to fucking go tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And baseball just will never be that, no matter how long a guy has been in college or anything else, right?
Yeah. It's a completely different situation. The NBA has the G League, which I guess the Suns don't even have their G League team anymore, if I'm not mistaken. So it is pretty crazy just how different baseball is, right? And just how you're taking these guys and you're hoping that sometime down the road in 4 or 5 years that you have some hope of seeing them play in the major leagues. And the reality, Derek, is that it's not just a matter of how long will it take them to get there, but will they even get there at all, right? A lot of these guys, even in the first round, it's far from a guarantee that they will make the majors at some point, and that's why it's such a big celebrated moment when a guy does break into the major leagues. Unlike a player's like first game in the NFL or first game in the NBA, it's not as big of a deal as like a player's MLB debut, right? Like their first game in Major League Baseball.
We've seen a lot of that this season because I feel like there's a lot of really high talented prospects that are making their debuts with their teams. O'Neal Cruz,
right?
Bobby Witt Jr., Alec Thomas with us, right? So like it's exciting because you talk about this guy a lot. You kind of, I mean, I guess to a degree, you fantasize about them being as good as you hope they could be. Even when you see what they can do at a minor league level, you still hope that is going to carry over to the major league level because we've seen that. We've seen guys have tremendous careers at a minor league level and then not be able to have that transition over to a major league level. You just don't know. And I mean, again, with Alec Thomas, we just crossed our fingers and hoped he could get his first hit or something really soon so that he didn't have too much that would deter his confidence. Instead, Alec Thomas came up, won the center field job on like the first day and has been there ever since. Like he's obviously not been in the lineup for every game because Torey Lovullo doesn't do that, but Alec Thomas is exactly what we dream of a prospect coming up and being, where they get here, they arrive, they're a major leaguer from the minute that they set foot on the field, and they stay here. We don't have to do what like the Tigers are doing right now with Spencer Torkelson and sending him back down, and now having that scrutiny about why they're sending him back down. look, in some cases, it's better to send a guy back down than have him ride the pine so that he can still get regular at bats and continue in his development.
That's definitely the thinking there. And yeah, that's a pretty common thing. Like if a player comes up and struggles a little bit and then you send him back down, that's not really a failure. That's just sort of, the difficulty of baseball rearing its head, right? This is a very, very hard game to adapt to, especially at the big league level.
Cincinnati Reds war room looked like a bankers convention. Looked like a bunch of bankers just ready to hear about new banking laws and regulations is what it looked like. Much different than the NASA feel of the Kansas City Royals draft room, war room. By the way, more teams need to have matching blazers. That's all I'm saying. The periwinkle light blue blazers from the Kansas City Royals.
That was a good look. That was
great
a good
touch. Hey, and the Reds get Cam Collier. So Cam Collier is finally off the board. I know we said that these teams aren't really like cheering over their ability to grab a guy at this point. That might be much different, right? But
I mean, Cam Collier,
when he's ranked 8th on most people's list, or maybe even a little bit higher on a couple of lists, are you celebrating right now as the Cincinnati Reds getting him 18th overall?
Yeah, this is a pretty big get for them. We mentioned earlier he's 17 years old. You can see here his strengths. He's an advanced hitter with a great approach at the plate, quick hands. He's got a good arm also as well. So
mobility concerns as he ages. What does that mean? He's 17, right? I mean, that's
I
me.
Too have
that's
mobility
me every
concerns
morning
as I age.
Oh
yes.
my God! Solid but not great runner. That goes with the mobility issues, and of course, I think that even here, like the MLB had him. He's a third baseman, but they're saying that he should transition over to first, most likely at a major league level, which again is something we have no idea if that's going to happen. It's like you said, it's the reason why the teams shouldn't concern themselves too greatly with drafting positional needs, considering that these guys could potentially go somewhere else on the diamond once they get to a minor league level or major league level. I mean, you never know in high school. Some of these high school coaches are literally letting these guys play wherever they want instead of trying to like suggest that they play somewhere else, especially if you're good enough to be drafted in the first round of the MLB draft. So, but again, Cam Collier, probably a pretty good day for the Cincinnati Reds to get him at 18.
Patrick Lyon says if the worst thing about a guy is he could have achy knees in a few decades, then he's a pretty good dude. Fair point.
I got achy knees now, Patrick Lyon. So yeah, for sure. I don't know. This draft continues to be.
Yeah, Jesse, didn't you tell me this wasn't going to take 4 hours when I was
Yeah,
like,
Jesse lied.
I'm preparing for 4 hours.
Yeah,
Jesse was like, no,
So
no,
what
no,
are we
no,
at?
no.
Where are we at? We're at about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
We're 2 hours and 21
Guys.
minutes in, and we're at pick number 19. I don't know. You guys tell us in the chat. How long should we go for? At this point, I'm not sure if we're going to make the competitive balance
maybe we get to 34 and then call it there.
Hey,
I
you
don't
know what? I'm pretty pleased with where we're at right now.
It is only 19. Yeah, it's going to probably take more than 4 hours to get to 34. But you know what? We're thriving in here, Derek.
I'm not taking this tie off. I'm not. I might loosen it.
The tie is still on.
The tie's going to get loosened at this first button going down. But no, we got 4 hours, baby. I'm putting the glasses back down. I got plenty of Four Peaks Brewing Company beers, so I'm fine. I got water. Whatever. I'm here. Someone will put me 4 hours, and then you buy dinner. Mark, who's buying dinner? Are you guys buying dinner for us?
They buy you dinner.
I like that. I think Patrick Lyon should buy us dinner. But Cam Collier, again, the best available guy on the draft. Or best available guy still on the big board. So I think that, again, there's some excitement now if you're picking in the 20s with some of the names that are still left, obviously, right?
Yeah. This is if I'm a Reds fan, I'm pretty happy with the way that things turned out. Yeah.
All right. Well, by the way, Emma, you said you had some questions for us, and they aren't baseball related at all.
Oh, here we go.
So we do need to get some super chat. I don't think have we ever had a super chat on this show?
We did get super
chats.
A super chat. The Seth Beer walk-off opening day.
Yeah, that was exciting. Super chats cover the DoorDash. Yeah, that's where it's at today. But Emma, what do you got for us?
Okay, guys. So I have a list of questions that are not baseball related. Sorry, Jesse. But they're kind of like trivia questions, okay?
I'm ready for it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so Ohio DUI officers must have what color license plate?
What?
What? Okay, see, this is funny because in Puerto Rico, when I was there, I found out that like cops couldn't pull you over unless they have their lights on the whole time. So when cops are on patrol in Puerto Rico, they have to have like their lights on
Oh.
all the time. So there's no like sneaking in the shadows and pulling you over,
Right.
you know, or hiding or whatever, right? I kind of like that rule just a little bit, but what
Wait.
color license plate do they have to pull you over?
Yes.
They have to have a specific color.
Yeah.
Blue,
Nah.
Red?
Nah. Yellow.
yellow.
Yep.
And of course,
We-
Shane
of
got
course
it on
Shane
his
got
first
it.
guess.
How many times have you been pulled over in Ohio? That's all that means. See, he's not even answering the question.
We're just
That
saying
makes
you're,
me
we're just saying you're
realize that was a
smart,
good. All right.
Shane. That's all we're
No,
saying.
he's brilliant. He
He's
really
brilliant.
is. All right, let's go. Next one.
Trying to think of which one. Bubble wrap was originally invented to be what?
Can I get that one more time?
Bubble wrap was originally invented to be what?
It's a fidget toy, right? It's got to be a fidget toy. That's what it was. It's
Yeah.
originally invented
Honestly,
for popping. It's got to be for popping.
I've used it more for that than anything
Yeah.
else personally. So
I don't know. What was it originally used for? Insulation is what I'm going with.
Close, but not inside the walls.
Okay. Jesse, you go.
I mean, isn't that what? Okay, so this is what it was originally created for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bubble wrap. What was bubble wrap?
What was bubble wrap
originally
originally
created
created for?
Patrick says miniature fish bowls, and I think that's an excellent fucking answer. you got?
Jacob says a cast.
A cast.
I don't know. What would it have originally been for that it's not used for now?
Do you want me to tell you?
Just tell us, Emma. What do we got?
Wallpaper.
Wallpaper.
What?
Wallpaper.
Are you shitting me?
Oh
No.
my gosh.
In what year was this wallpaper? This is like the 60s.
Bro, I'm 20.
I know.
Do you
that's
think
what
I
I'm-
know?
Hey,
think
you're
I know?
you're the ones with all the answers over there, sitting behind the big computer.
What do you guys think? Would bubble wrap look like if we put bubble wrap up here behind us?
I'm thinking the fuzzy wall, right? Like rubbing the fuzzy wall, right? But bubble wrap,
Ah,
like that's enjoyable. Like I want to sit there and pop those on the wall. But then what happens when they're all popped out, right? How long does that last? 6 months, and every single bubble on my bubble wrap wallpaper is popped. So that's not happening. Jesse, I actually have a quick game to play with you.
Did you not like my game?
No, I do, but it reminded me that I have a backup game that I've been saving for Jesse, and we're getting back to your game, but we're not doing good on these answers. So let me just pop here really fast and ask Jesse,
All right. What do we got, Derek? Should I be concerned?
are these people D-backs minor leaguers? Or are they
Oh no.
2 Michelin star chefs? So I'm going to read off name, and you have to tell me minor leaguer or chef. And these are players in the Diamondbacks minor league system. We will
Okay.
start first. Damian Gray.
Damian Gray. So it's D-backs
It's
minor
D-backs
leaguer.
minor leaguer or chef.
All right. Damian Gray, I believe, is a D-backs minor leaguer.
Incorrect. He's a 2 Michelin star chef. Mac Lemieux.
Mac Lemieux.
Mac Lemieux.
How do you spell Lemieux? Am I allowed to
Lemieux
ask
is
that?
like Mario Lemieux. Lemieux.
Okay. That's a D-backs minor leaguer.
That is. He is an
Okay.
Amarillo Sod Poodles player.
Yes.
We got
Seen that name.
Isaac McHale.
Chef?
Isaac McHale. He's a chef. Good job.
2 for 3.
2 for 3. All right. We got Mark Burchell.
How do you spell Burchell?
Birchall. And I'm fascinated that the spelling of the names factor in here.
Maybe I'm just stalling so I
No,
can
that's
try to make a
fine.
decision.
Yeah, you need more time.
It's like in those spelling contests when they like ask for like the
Yeah,
language of origin and all this stuff just to like
can you
stall
use
it
it in
by
a
time.
sentence?
Yeah, yeah. Could you, Derek? Could you use this in a sentence for me?
Mark Burchell covered third base
All right,
on this play.
I'm gonna say D-backs minor leaguer.
You would be wrong. He's a chef.
Darn it.
Ross Carver,
D-backs minor leaguer.
Hillsboro Hops.
Yeah,
Ross Carver.
okay,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Jeremy Chan,
Jeremy Chan, chef.
chef.
Okay.
Good job. Jake Rice.
Jake Rice, chef.
Sod Poodle. Scott
I hate
Randall.
this game.
It's because you have no idea. These are how names go. I'm going to give you Avery Short. I skipped one there. It's fine.
Avery Short.
Avery Short.
I think that's a D-backs minor
That
leaguer.
is a Hillsboro Hop player.
Okay.
We got Jordan Bailey.
D-backs minor leaguer.
Chef.
Chef.
Jeff Bain.
Jeff Bain. I think that's a D-backs minor leaguer.
That is a D-backs minor
Yeah.
leaguer for the Sod Poodles. And last,
Are
Daniel.
they all hops or sod poodles?
They're all hops or Sod Poodles. Daniel Clifford.
Daniel Clifford.
Daniel Clifford.
Chef.
Chef. Mark Solera points out, ironically, Avery Short, 6'2".
Yeah.
Not short at all.
Huh.
The name is not descriptive. The Atlanta Braves have been on the on the board now for what, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes? I have no idea how
The
long.
Braves are taking their sweet old time.
We're never getting to our competitive balance pick, but I don't know. I still have plenty of beer. So, Emma, not to go back to you, but what do you got for us for more questions? You got more trivia for us?
Oh, guys, I have like 30.
She knew.
Getting
she
to
knew
4
we
hours will
She
be
knew
no
we were going to
problem.
need to get there.
I literally told them, I was like, guys, we're going to be here for 4 hours, so I have a couple stuff for like as fillers. And
What did Jesse say? What did Jesse
was
say
like,
to the 4 hours?
There's no way we're going over 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Jesse, we're at
Yeah.
I
pick 20 and
underestimated
it's
the
been
MLB
2.5
draft.
hours.
Yeah, 2.5 hours. What do you have to say about that now?
Well, it hasn't felt like that long. for
No,
what
we've
it's
been having a
worth.
great time.
Yeah,
We're
there
having a
we go.
great time. I don't feel this heat at all. Not even a little bit.
I
What
sort
you
of
got?
do, but
The sweat dripping down your face would say otherwise. What animal is behind the most power outages in the United States?
What animal
What
is
animal?
behind the most power outages in the United States?
it's got to be a baboon, right?
A
Given
wild
given
baboon, right?
the whole
Definitely.
dust storm.
At least in downtown
situation.
Arizona, it's definitely baboons. Patrick Lyon says groundhog. I don't think so. But it could be groundhog. Groundhog. He says is that a confidence level? He said groundhog and then he said bye. Is that did he drop the mic
I think
on
he
us?
dropped the
Wrong,
mic
though.
and now he's leaving.
He's
Yeah,
wrong,
I think
though.
so. The rally baboon.
Oh
Yes,
my
Jacob
God.
gets it.
Well, like, see, now I'm questioning. I'm going back to the ASU snake draft, determining whether or not insects are animals or not. I feel like an insect is most likely behind this somehow. Todd Cowden says squirrel. That's an excellent answer. I'm going squirrel.
Squirrels is correct.
Squirrel is correct.
Oh my gosh.
Todd, you
Todd.
son, let's go.
Wow. All right.
Oh my God. He's probably looking up the answers, but regardless.
Am I allowed to pre-lock in Todd's answer?
Yeah,
That's my
no,
answer
you're
for
just
the
no,
next
you're
question.
not. No, you
Can I do
can't.
that?
No, you answered beforehand, and that's your bad decision. On Twitter, there's a lot of 2025 World Series talk, by the way, which is very exciting for me. But still, it seems so far off. I'm not ready to talk about 2025. I'm ready.
If Drew Jones is a major leaguer by 2025, that would be something.
Do you think that's it's going to take longer than that?
I think it will probably take 2026. I think would be
Okay.
like probably a best case. Not to say 2025 is like impossible, but for a guy taken out of high school, you're usually looking at more than. I mean, he's not going to do that much this season, right? So you're looking at 2023, 2024. Can a guy out of high school, make his way up to the majors after just 2 full seasons in the minors? That's a little bit ambitious. But like we said earlier, I mean, with what Corbin Carroll was able to accomplish or has been able to accomplish, that's essentially what he's doing right now. So it's not impossible. No, Jacob, you're absolutely right. Corbin Carroll's looking at 3 years with shoulder surgery. So it's not to say it's impossible, but I just want to emphasize that is definitely the exception and not the rule. That's a pretty remarkable thing that Corbin
Yeah.
Carroll has done there.
Yeah.
So maybe it happens, but it's just not something I would necessarily expect.
Corbin Carroll's draft class has a lot of big names in there, but a lot of names that haven't gotten up to that level just yet, like much like Carroll himself, right? But again, there is the fact that he was injured, the way that impacts his progression, right? Like he's definitely ahead of his progression. He's ahead of the projections, I feel like, and I think that's the reason why that we don't see Corbin Carroll this year. I think that's the only reason why, is because he's already ahead of projections. It feels like he was drafted in 2019. So you're all right over there. But I mean, yeah, it's Corbin Carroll's definitely definitely an exception to the rule and not what we would expect, especially out of,
Yeah, if you expect that out of a high school kid, you're going to be disappointed a lot. But Drew Jones is a remarkable talent, and it's definitely not to say that he couldn't do something like that.
Here's the funny thing is I think we might last longer than my MacBook that was fully charged when we started doing the show. I can't understand how that something went wrong in my preparation for this show when it came to my MacBook battery life. But of course, that's because we're just rounding the 2 hour and 34 minute mark at this point. Those of you that have hung in the entire time, you're the real kings of the series right now at this point. We appreciate you guys. Make sure to like us here, like this video, get as many people watching it. We're baseball. We get it. We're not basketball. We're not football, but we want you guys to come here and join us, chat about baseball. The Arizona Diamondbacks are a fun team. And at least right now, I know the track record for this team isn't great when it comes to draft picks, but right now things are looking up considerably. And I think it's one of those things where, again, we tend to put what past regimes have done on current regimes. And even though Mike Hazen hasn't been at times the most active GM, he seems to know what he's doing. I've said this before. I would let Mike Hazen general manage my life, and I don't say that about a lot of people. Oh, the draft pick is in for the Seattle Mariners. They take shortstop Cole Young. Oh, fantastic for them. The Seattle Mariners have already been so fucking good. Of course, they need to get. I know. Okay, what was it? 21st pick. Again, we're seeing guys like still get drafted right around where they were at. Cole Young was the 20th projected ranked prospect for this draft. So he won the national pitch, hit, and run competition at the age of 10 years old.
Wow, that's how you know you're destined for greatness.
That's fucking
right
wild,
there.
right? Yeah, for real. Like, I don't know. I was excited just to be competing in the Fan of Fest events at like the Super Bowl and stuff, let alone going to national pitch hit competitions for baseball and winning them like that. So he's an elite hitter, advanced defensive actions. He's got, he's another one of these guys in the draft that he's a bit undersized. He lacks the raw power, but not necessarily something that is required for you to be an effective major league ball player.
Yeah, we've seen, there seems like there's kind of a lot of guys who kind of have that as part of their scouting report, that maybe they don't have quite the size that you might hope for. But yeah, I mean, Cole Young has drawn comps to Adam Frazier, which is a pretty good spot to be in. I know for sure. Adam Frazier's had a couple ups and downs the last few years, moving over to Seattle. But yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting player for the Seattle Mariners.
Kind of funny he gets drafted to the Mariners after drawing comparisons to Adam Frazier, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Mariners, Orioles, these are teams that have been pretty damn good this year, and both of these teams have a chance to, not only, make their team better in this draft, obviously for the future, but to have some pretty good seasons. Like the Mariners have a good chance to make the playoffs this year, so that's exciting to watch.
Yeah, and I know you're gonna hate me for this, but Robbie Ray is really
talk about
pick
it?
things up.
You want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Robbie Ray and
his
how
numbers
good he's been.
Look. I mean, he didn't start off well. I know there were a lot of people in Seattle who were pretty worried about the contract that they gave him, and that it might have been kind of a one-hit wonder with him in Toronto last year, and that it wouldn't really carry over the same way. But he's basically been the same guy. I mean, he's averaging over 6 innings per start. I think he's made 19 starts at this point in the year. ERA of 3.54 isn't quite what it was last year. But he's been really good for the Mariners, and a big part of their turnaround. They did not start the season well as a team, but they've really turned it around and are squarely in the mix for the playoffs at this point.
they're an exciting team for that because, I mean, they have the talent. It's not that they don't have the talent. The Mariners have just been in a position where things don't work out for them. And now sitting at nearly 10 games over 500 going into the All-Star break, they have to be pretty excited. And yes, we are spying on our exes when it comes to Robbie Ray because this has been, again, a guy that we've done a lot of spying on. We kept up to date on him in Toronto last year with all the things he had. He had a league best 2.84 ERA and a MLB best 248 strikeouts. That's something that we've known Robbie Ray was good at, is the strikeouts. But this season, again, he leads all of MLB with 19 starts. He leads the American League with 117 innings pitched. And it's that durability, honestly, that's been
Robbie
surprising.
Ray leading the league in innings pitched
in last year and this year. Like, he ended the league last year leading the American League in innings pitched. And so far, he leads the American League in innings pitched. That's not something that we saw out of our Robbie Ray when he was here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost a joke that you knew you were going to get like 7 to 10 strikeouts out of him, but he wasn't going to be able to make it past the 5th inning.
Right. Yeah, it's been a remarkable turnaround for him. And I mean, yeah, Robbie Ray is just, he's a fun guy to watch. In all of his years in Arizona, I know there was some frustration that he wasn't quite able to put things all together. You know, we all knew there was that extra level that he had in him that he just wasn't quite able to get to consistently, but he's really putting it together now.
You know, he was kind of a throw-in from Detroit, or there wasn't a lot of high expectation. I'm not saying a throw-in, but when we got him, there wasn't high expectations. What we saw out of Robbie Ray eventually was a sub-3 ERA.
Yeah.
But then what we saw from that point on was him just things got a little worse for him every season.
2017 was a great year for him.
Yeah.
And then after that, it just, he just had a hard time consistently pitching deep into games and avoiding walks. I think in 2020, in his last year in Arizona, he had like just as many walks as strikeouts. So things got pretty rough for him at the end of his D-backs career. And as painful as it is to spy on our exes and, you know, see a guy like Robbie Ray having all of this success elsewhere, still really, really cool to see for a guy that's really easy to root for.
Jesse, do you want to go ahead and take the lead on the St. Louis Cardinals pick? Because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pronounce that gentleman's name without offending him and maybe his family and his ancestors.
I'm
I'm going to let you take a swing of that one.
Okay. Well, I currently am not aware of who you're even talking
That's
about.
the Oregon State pitcher.
The Oregon State pitcher, Cooper. Do you want to give it a shot over there?
All I know is a Swedish dog, when they bark, they go Bjark. So I'm going to go Hierby.
Yeah, no, I am. I can't provide much help there. That's about it. That's about as good as I would do too, Shane. So we'll go with
Cooper, that. Cooper Hierby is what we're going with there. Thank you, Shane, for that insight.
This is why we invited Shane.
This is why we have Shane here. We have Emma here for her amazing questions, and we have Shane here to teach us how to pronounce people's names. Again, draft is all over the place. Not surprised. At this point, things are kind of erratic for all of these teams because, again, there is several guys. I mean, in the top 15, there's 3 players available still. Robbie Snelling just outside of the top 15. Jackson Ferris. A lot of mostly pitching prospects still available besides Daniel Susac.
Yeah. Which is why I feel like it's
Sussex. I'm sure it's Sussex. I don't know.
I think that's accurate.
I'm sure.
Oh, we have a super chat from
Is that
Mark
real?
Solera.
Is that real? Mark Solera? You just paid for our
for learning what noise of dogs. It's really for Shane.
It's for Shane. Yeah, Shane gets
that goes towards
we're going to put that to Shane's dinner. Yeah. Oh man, but apparently I was going to say the Toronto is picking some Subway sandwich, but that's just a commercial. I don't know if this speaks to the pitching prospects in this draft that there's so many higher pitching prospects still available.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of just the nature of the draft. I think the very top is stacked with position players, and then as things kind of go on, it's a lot more of these pitchers. But yeah, I think it is fairly likely that the Diamondbacks will look for that at number 34, which is
11 picks away.
11 picks away. Toronto, they're on the clock right now at pick number 23,
you know what?
so we're getting there.
I didn't think we were going to make it. But now that we're 11 picks away, I'm feeling I'm feeling my second win. I'm ready to go.
All right.
I'm still not losing the tie. I feel like if I lost the tie at this point, that Saul wins. That's what I feel
Yeah,
like.
we can't have that.
I
We
can't
definitely
let
can't
Saul
have
win.
that.
I was supposed to play paintball with Saul this week, and my main goal was to not let him win and to shoot him. But then, upon careful consideration, I thought of Saul's military background.
Yeah, you
and
want to
thought
be
it
pretty
might
careful
be
with
best
something
to
like
team
that.
up,
you
right?
know?
Form an alliance, Jesse, is what
There
I was
you
looking
go.
to do. Big Brother's back, so of course, if you guys are Big Brother fans, you know all about the Form an alliance. If you're a wrestling fan, you also know how important that is. You can't be a wrestler at AEW without a faction to be a part of. I'll take a water, I suppose. I mean, it's not beer, but it'll do for now. I probably should switch over to
Swap this
that
out.
at this point. I'm not giving up on this little castle I'm creating, though, for sure. But yeah, that's I don't know, Jesse. I think that at this point, I really would think back upon that paintball experience and team up with Saul. I think that's the best move to make.
Okay. Do
Right?
you think Saul would actually be open to teaming up with you?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
No, probably
I
not.
don't think group outings to paintball are really about the alliances that form. I don't
Sure.
think that's the main goal of doing something.
Is that
like
is it more about a release of aggression? Is it what's going on there?
I think that's pretty accurate. You know, it depends on who you are, but
See, Mark gets it. He says we'll make the alliance with Saul. That we're backdooring Saul is what we're gonna do. We're gonna after the veto
oh,
competition.
there you go. There
right?
you go.
We'll
Don't spoil this on the air.
No, I'm
Derek.
sorry. Yeah, no, look, see in Big Brother, they have to make plans and stuff, and you get to see all of that. So it's exciting. Thank you, Chris, for hitting like. I'm gonna blame you for the lack of success of this show now. So, but we appreciate that you got around.
There
to
is
hitting
no
the like.
lack of success. in
No,
this
I
show,
know.
Derek. What are you
Of
even
course,
talking
we're
about?
here. You guys are here. We've already won. We've already
We've been
won.
here for nearly 3 hours.
We have Drew
There's-
Jones. We've been on air for 3 hours. This is a home run all the way around. But the Toronto Blue Jays the pick has been in. What's going on there? Is that an owner? Is that a GM? I'm not familiar with the Blue Jays. Sean Green. Oh, Sean Green, former MLB player.
Former Diamondback.
Former
Sean
Diamondback.
Green.
That's right.
Brief stint.
Taking a look in the Toronto Blue Jays. How would you describe this war room, Jesse?
It just looks like kind of a
It's like a college class.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. It's like a
Like-
round table
Like
college
a round table
class.
thing.
Yeah,
they
it's
have a
like
presenter in. His name is Ron Badfred. He's going to teach them about MLB, like business and how to, partially sink it into the ground a little bit. But now the Blue Jays selection at number 23 is up. And we're 10 picks. 10 picks? Or no, 11 picks. What is the Diamondbacks
they're
compensation?
34.
All right.
Yeah.
Brandon Oh, see, that's that name again. Barreria.
Brandon Barriera.
Yeah.
Barriera.
What? Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Are you serious, Giselle? Absolutely. What? Are you kidding me?
We can't possibly accept that.
We can't
there has
accept
to be.
that
we
from
can.
you. We love you so much. That's incredible. That is incredible. Yes, Chris, I do want to blame you for stuff, but now Giselle made me forget all
Giselle
about
made
that.
all of our problems go
She is
away.
my angel. She is my darling.
Thank you, Giselle. We appreciate you.
I don't know. How does super chats work? Can you guys explain this to me? What's going on?
Yeah, does this money go straight into our pockets?
Yeah,
Or
what are we doing
how exactly does this work?
No, it goes into the PHNX.
No, well, I mean, come on. Let's get that DoorDash going, and we'll contact Saul. Saul, get in here. I know Saul's in here right now, so.
I do feel bad though because I just told Emma I wish we had like a dancing monkey or something that we could throw up on the screen whenever somebody donated. So Derek, if you could just be that dancing monkey.
I'll do it like
Yeah.
we're like want my little
Yeah,
cabbage
perfect.
patch thing
I'll sing
going
for
on.
you. Woo, 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 woo. Yeah. Wah, wah.
There you go. There it
This
is.
Some really good stuff.
I'm doing whatever I can. I mean, she deserves it. She deserves everything. What are we eating? That's the more important question. What are we eating? So, we'll figure that out, and we'll get it here on air very soon. And we're gonna make Saul pay for all of it out of the super chat or whatever. He says, I'm getting told no, that's not happening. Man, I'll tell you right now, Boston Red Sox on the clock, 128. We got the big boys in Major League Baseball getting ready to make their selections. And honestly, I'd be pretty happy right now at this point of the draft, considering the guys that are left, I think. And again, I know I've been talking about that a bit, but I mean, you kind of have these names on your board too. It's like you said, yeah, I know that the teams don't necessarily listen to, Keith Law and the experts, right? But you can't help but wonder if their boards look very
I'm
similar.
Sure I'm sure their boards probably do look similar. Barriera is a left-handed pitcher. 6'2", 180. He's out of American Heritage in Florida.
Man, this is a beautiful moment too. He's in tears. I think it's his dad in tears. That man looks way too young to be his dad, but I'm pretty sure.
I think
I'm
that
just
is
going
what
that,
is happening.
I'm going that based on my own age at this point. I think I'm trying to not say that a man that looks like me or younger than me could have a full-grown adult child that is now being drafted into Major League Baseball, but yeah, that's totally the case. I don't know, man. More tears, more stuff like this, more beautiful moments. Is this the kind of stuff that makes? Is this the stuff that makes baseball? What's going on? What do you guys got going on? No, nothing. I don't trust what they got going on over here.
Oh gosh.
But what are your thoughts?
Our producers are
our
way
producers
too much
are all
fun
over
right
the
now.
place. We're running over. We're just crossing over 2 hours and 50 minutes. So
this is officially for Giselle.
This is for Giselle. Let's fucking go. Yeah.
That monkey was a lot better than your thing was, Derek. I'm sorry.
You son of a bitch. I put work into that dance. We've talked about making the draft better, Jesse. I mean, this is it, right?
Yeah,
this is what we're talking about.
These moments are cool. And I mean, seeing the players like interviewed right on the spot is just a really cool moment. Getting to talk to some of the MLB Network broadcasters and whatnot. I feel like for them it has to make the moment like a lot more real. But you can also understand like, wanting to host a party or something at your, at some sort of place where you can have like all your friends and family and everyone over and celebrate that moment alongside them. But I mean, you can see their family members are still there with them. Those people who've decided to be in LA and to do this in person there. So really, really cool moment here for Brandon Barriera and his family.
I guess from my perspective, and again, and not to knock anybody that isn't there, right? Like sometimes in life, these moments are best shared with like people that are super close to you, right? Like being there at some big kind of event with, fans and media and everything like that might not be very high on your priority list. But again, there's a couple of things that I bring this up is one, it's a limited experience, right? You're not going to ever get that again, unless you're Kumar Rocker.
Yeah.
And then two, it's also the fact of like, I don't know. I think that it's good for baseball. I think baseball needs all the help it can get as far as popularity is concerned, as far as interest is concerned, as far as people knowing who their team drafted and being excited about that for the future. So I feel like, I guess it's hard to say like make it mandatory, but like, I feel like MLB could do a better job of making sure these top like 20 guys are actually there at the draft.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is actually something that's becoming more common across sports and not just baseball of them not being there present, right?
Yeah. I mean, in baseball, understandably, like, I mean, there's 20 rounds to this thing when it's all said and done. So if every single player who got drafted was there in person, you would need a very, very large facility to have this event. But
that's valid.
How do we feel about Jonathan Mayo's tie, Derek?
Ooh, I'm gonna judge Jonathan Mayo's tie right now based on the design overall. I think it's terrible. I don't like the fact that it doesn't have the same pattern on the what would it be, the left side of the tie versus the right side of the tie. It's a bow tie.
Oh, did it not? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's a bow tie. You can't have that. You can't have that. I will give him
Jonathan
props.
Mayo is wearing an asymmetrical
I don't like it one bit. I will give him props for apparently tying it himself. It does not look like a clip-on or any kind of other tie. It looks like that's very difficult. Have you ever tied a bow tie?
I have not. No, I've seen one tied.
It's not easy.
I've never done it myself.
It's not easy. I had to wear one for a friend of mine's wedding, and I had quite the difficulty with it. Boston.
So props to Jonathan Mayo for being able to tie his tie.
Yeah, but see, still, I'm not giving him props because I didn't like the asymmetrical nature of it.
Got it.
What is the Boston Red Sox mascot's name? Is it the Big Green Monster? Because he's a big green monster.
I think so.
Is it? That's because I feel like that's an awful.
Wally
Wally
Yeah,
the
Wally.
Green Monster.
There you go.
Wally the wall. Come
Ah.
on. You had a great chance to have, like, I don't know,
Apparently, there's also Tessie the Green Monster. There's 2 of them.
like
Tessie is
there's Mr. and Mrs. Met, right? And there's Mr. and Mrs. Red.
right, except
right?
Tessie is Wally the Green Monster's little sister. Apparently, so they're siblings.
That's more wholesome than marriage, you know, because with some of those situations with I've seen Mrs. Met getting wild. I'm just saying, it's not the most wholesome look for your mascot, you know, to be cheating on your other mascot behind his back and whatever. That's all I'm saying. What are our thoughts here on the Boston Red Sox pick? Got a good pick?
Yeah. I think this is a good spot for them. Yeah. Do we still have graphics for all these guys?
Yeah, we do. We got Brandon Barreria.
Is he in there somewhere?
He is. There he is.
There he is. Yeah. So talking about him, he's a lefty. I mentioned a couple quick things earlier. But he is a versatile athletic lefty that also plays first base and outfield, although it seems like the future here is for him primarily as a pitcher. A smooth, fluid delivery, and he also has a heavy sinker as well to go along with that. As far as weaknesses go, he's a little bit undersized, which we've been saying quite a bit, at 180 pounds. But he also is said to have some control issues, which is not altogether that rare for someone being taken here in the MLB draft. So certainly something that he can shore up on that front. But yeah, I think the Red Sox are happy.
It's funny, the undersized thing when you're talking about like high school kids. I know he's not a high school kid, but still it's kind of funny because these guys are all so young. He's 18 years old. So yeah, of course it's 6'2". He's a bit undersized, but I don't know at this point. I think that the Diamondbacks, I'm still focused on the Diamondbacks pick. That's what I'm excited about. I think, again, a lot of these teams got some excellent picks as far as value picks just because of the reaching that went on. And I guess you could even say that a bit about the Diamondbacks here. But now as we get into some of these better teams, I guess the idea there is like, I'm pressing the panic button on some of these guys that like the fucking Yankees and the White Sox and the Houston Astros and shit could get. Like, are we really going to be giving these guys a top 20 picks when they are, you know, supposed to be so far off? Spencer Jones is taken by the New York Yankees, and Spencer,
that is a big party.
They are fucking
right now.
excited. They are all about that. But it's the Yankees, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I think it's exciting to get drafted by a baseball team, period, right? But there are certain teams in sports like the Dodgers and the Yankees that I think people just get a bit more excited about.
As much as, Arizona sports fans are probably hesitant to admit to that sort of thing. But it is true. If you get drafted by an organization with as much history as the New York Yankees have, it's got to be a pretty cool moment.
I mean, we're moving into a point where other teams are kind of getting a little bit of that rub, right? But it's still hard to deny how many people want to play for those organizations that they grew up kind of looking at as like the elite teams in baseball, right? Especially when, I mean, I can only imagine what kids playing in like, you know, Little League right now think of teams like the Dodgers that have just been so good. Even though they've only won the one World Series, they've been so good for so many years, right? Like there are teams like that. The Yankees are just this iconic team that I can see you being tremendously excited about being a part of, you know? But that's what today is all about, right? It's all about that. Shout out to our friends at the DraftKings Sportsbook, by the way. They did not have Jackson Holiday going first. I think he was his odds were very good. So if you somehow had some money on Jackson Holiday going number 1 overall, I think you cleaned up over at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. If you're new to the app, make sure to use our promo code of PHNX. You make your first deposit and you'll get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code PHNX only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for detail. I wish I would have put some money on Jackson Holiday. I know a couple of people threw it on Drew Jones just to kind of hedge their bets emotionally, which is something Shane Diefenbach always talks about. If we didn't get Drew Jones, they wanted to win some money on him for sure.
Jackson Holiday on DraftKings was plus 800.
Plus 800 value.
Throw $100, get 800 back.
That's
go number 1 overall.
That's really, really nice. That's really, really nice. So shout out to anybody who did that. And if you're a D-backs fan that did bet on Drew Jones going first overall, you didn't get that, but you got him. You got him as part of your organization. So again, hedging your bets emotionally, that's the way you do it on the DraftKings Sportsbook.
Arizona sports fans are used to that.
We got to do that. That's what we got to do.
Pretty common around
We got to
here.
do that, right? I myself have made several, I guess you could say, emotionally hedged bets. I don't know how to put that in the plural, but yes, I've done that several times, and it works. I won't lie. I mean, if you can somehow still win even when you lose in some way, it's the route to go. It's the reason why I love getting down on the DraftKings Sportsbook and doing that, because again, even if the Diamondbacks can't find a way to win, I will bet against them. Just because they lose doesn't mean I have to lose. Also, speaking of our friends, our sponsors, check out our friends at OG's Brands. That's what I'm going to be doing to celebrate. Big old bag of sativa orange creamsicle for this guy over here. OG's launched their first limited edition seasonal flavor in the pina colada we'd be talking about. It's a wonderful combination of pineapple and coconut creamy blend. It's wonderful. All of their flavors are delicious because that's what OG's focuses on. Check out OG's online at ogsbrands.com or on Instagram at ogsbrands at OGEEZ You can also find their products at your local dispensary. Must be 21 years or older to purchase. And again, they have a variety of flavors, they have a variety of doses, and a variety of strains. So make sure to check out OG's. If you're in a celebratory mood like I am tonight, get yourself some sativa. Like I said, it'll keep the party going. Check out our friends again at ogsbrands.com. Jesse, I think at this point, the Arizona Diamondbacks have plenty of good picks by the time we reach that competitive balance pick, right? Is that your thought? Because I'm thinking at this point, we know that we have those coming up. What we could do is drop off here for a little bit and come back with you guys so that we can kind of recap some of those picks. Maybe join us on Twitter. Maybe we'll stick around here at the studio. But
we're signing off after 3 hours, Derek? Is
that's
that what
it.
you're saying?
That's all I'm making it.
We're so weak that we can't go longer than 3 hours?
I don't like that you're doing that. I don't like you're doing that.
Jesse, I will pull up the Slack messages.
That's right. That's right. We gave away this shirt. We got Drew Jones. It's a win, Jesse. Sometimes, at this point, we just need to take what we can get. I will say this, that the Diamondbacks have Brock Porter, Robbie Snelling, and a couple of other top pitching prospects potentially available to them. We have about 8, 9 more picks, something like that, to still go before we get to the Diamondbacks selection. But again, there's some very good talent that could potentially drop to them when they get to these early picks in the compensation round or competitive balance round, as well as the round 2.
Yeah. I mean, 2 picks coming up for the D-backs at number 34 and 43. And yeah, like you said, I mean, there's some pretty good pitchers still on the board here. That would be my guess that's what the Diamondbacks will target. It's sort of nobody really knows at this point. I mean, I think people can make predictions that are reasonable for, through the first 15 or 20 picks. But after that, things go haywire pretty quick in the MLB draft. Nobody knows what's going on.
They're really all over the place as far as our draft board is concerned. I mean, there are some guys. Let's take a look, by the way, at the big board for this draft, because you guys can kind of see what we're talking about in regards to the big board. But there are still several players from this board still available.
So this is the top 48, I want to say.
Yeah, this was the way that it kind of ranked between MLB.com and a couple of other websites as far as their selections are concerned. There are still some names in column 1 available, including Brock Porter and Robbie Snelling.
Right.
It's going to be really compelling the closer we get to the Diamondbacks' next pick to see if any of these guys are still available. The Diamondbacks have a good chance to potentially walk away with 3 players from this list.
Yeah, I think Brock Porter would be tough. Signability is a concern for him in particular. He's committed to Clemson. And
he's
apparently
in the top 15 too. I mean, at this point, if I was Brock Porter, I would already be thinking about opting out, no matter who drafts me.
So my guess is that's why that you're seeing Brock Porter just sort of continue to fall here in the draft.
That's a great point, because
people are probably expecting that he wouldn't sign.
Yeah, some of these teams have had conversations with these guys, and that's that's a big question mark because, again, you do get, like what we saw with the Mets, you do get another pick in the future draft, but that's still a major pick that you could potentially be wasting on a player that doesn't end up signing with your team.
Right. So yeah, that's it. Brock Porter is in a bit of a tricky spot at this point. You'd have to go well over slot in order to get him. I think it's possible to do that. But given that the Diamondbacks took Drew Jones, who is arguably the top talent available in the entire draft from the get-go, you're not getting Drew Jones below slot, or at least not significantly below slot at number 2. So
Right.
I don't think the D-backs are really in a position to be able to give a guy like Brock Porter what he probably would need in order to consider signing, rather than just continuing with his plans to go to Clemson.
Chris Melton says I have to pee, and that might not be completely untrue, but that's not why we're signing off. We're getting ready to sign off because we appreciate you guys being here, but we feel like we've gotten to a point where we can't get much more out of this until waiting for the D-backs draft. And who the hell knows? It could be 10 minutes from now, or it could be 45 minutes or an hour from now.
Probably
So
be probably about an hour, maybe something like that. So
here's what we want you guys to do. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't done so already. I'm at @cap_caveman with a K. This guy is at Jesse N. Friedman. Our show, most importantly, is at PHNX_D-backs. Follow that account. We'll be posting some videos on there, giving our thoughts on the D-backs future picks that they have here still in this draft, as well as this draft extends beyond today onto tomorrow. So do that. But of course, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Again, we thank you guys so much for joining us in the chat and being here for 35 minutes. More than anything, we thank Giselle for her super chat. We thank all of you guys.
They were here for longer than 35 minutes.
Did I say 35 minutes? I'm sorry. I meant the 35 of you that have been here for at least 3 hours. For whatever reason, you decided to stick in with us.
Don't discredit what they all have accomplished here
what
today.
you guys went through with us. We thank you guys so much for being here with us in the chat. This has been an absolute blast, and we are excited about the future of this team, and we're excited for all these guys. Honestly, this is
Happy Drew Jones Day, everyone.
Happy Drew Jones Day. Happy draft day to so many of these guys that are having the best day of their lives pretty much today, having their dream realized in Major League Baseball. So it's an exciting time. And for now, the D-backs win against the Padres. They win in the draft. It's a great Sunday. So we thank you guys again for joining us. On behalf of this guy and myself, we appreciate you sticking around for this 3-hour draft live show. We thank you and love you so much. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you draft Drew Jones.